In a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. George Orwell. Yeah. This is Blood Politics. The only podcast where we don't talk about politics. We be about politics. And our mission statement is to empower, educate, and encourage everyone to speak out against fascism. Speak out against injustice and fight for freedom and equality for everyone. This is Blood Politics, and we ain't stopping till they put us in the grave. We ain't gonna be quiet, and we ain't gonna be scared.
What's up, guys?
We ain't gonna go along with the crowd. This is Blood Politics.
We're just going to get right into it. We're not going to waste any time today. People can filter in. I appreciate you guys joining me. We got a lot to talk about today. It is 9 June 2026, and I do appreciate you for joining. My name is Brian. This is Blunt Politics. Like I said, filter in, welcome in, one and all. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Ton of stuff we're going to talk about today. But before we dive into all of the topics, what do you say we bring in the chat? Say hi to you guys. You guys deserve a little screen time, as always. I appreciate everybody who showed up for the Patreon Zoom last night. Good to see you guys. What's up, Namaste? What's up, Tiff? What's up, Dame? Good to see you last night, my brother. What's up, JD? What's up, Dustin? What's going on, Roxy? How are you? What's up, Will? What's going on, Gamer? Good to see you guys. What's up, Nola? I appreciate you guys. Make sure you hit that like button on the way in. Jasper's mom, how are you doing? Good to see everybody on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, Substack, the whole 9 yards, as we say. But like I said, we got a ton to cover. Somehow, some way, during this ceasefire that's been taking place, we're now seeing that in Apache helicopter was downed. A rescue ensued with apparently a drone rescuing these the two pilots there. So we'll be talking a lot about that down near the Strait of Hormuz, of course. We'll be talking about Trump showing up to sleep at the Knicks final game. I mean, all of the fucking mayhem and chaos that he caused showing up to this game, only to sit there and get booed about as loudly as anybody's ever been booed, and then to sit there and fall asleep in the little suite that he had. So obviously we'll be digging into all of the clips there, all of the angles, because we talked about this last night on the Zoom. The ridiculous fucking like situation and environment that we're in right now, where we could put out these clips and it's clearly Donald Trump getting booed and it's clearly Donald Trump struggling to stay awake. And then the right can hijack those same clips. We'll utilize those same clips and talk about how unbelievable the reception was and how, Donald Trump portrayed himself as this big alpha strongman. And it's like, how are you guys living on the same planet? Obviously, you're either getting paid to say these things that you don't believe, or you've been captivated by the propaganda so much that, you're so desperate to come out of this with a victory that's what you see in those. But like I said, we'll be going through all the angles. You guys can tell me what you guys make of it, what you guys hear as far as booze and stuff like that. We'll be talking about a couple different British podcasts as well. There was a British podcast that I looked at, and it's called The News Agents, and they're asking the question, is Trump impotent? And I know what you're thinking, and sorry to raise that, that mental picture, but that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about basically his power that he has and the corner that he's backed himself into as far as the Iran war. So there was a couple good moments in that. So I figured we'd dive into that. James O'Brien reacts to Donald Trump's meltdown with Kristen Welker at the farm. So I figured that would be good to dive into. We got a Malcolm Nance clip. I know a lot of people in the chat, Malcolm Nance fans. So he speaks out about Iran, Trump, and the relationship between Trump and Netanyahu. Obviously, we have to talk about the Houthis now joining in on the war, the control over the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, something that we've warned here for several months now. Looks like it's creeping into play, creeping into action right now. So we'll be discussing that. Republicans claimed the rigged election again in California. Tim Pool, I think, has got a video trying to claim some evidence that he never ends up showing. And then obviously we'll talk about the Russian major general that was killed in a car explosion. Fareed Zakaria actually has a piece that he put out talking about Ukraine turning the tide. So if we leave ourselves some time, I want to dive into that. And then obviously Russia's losses get worse. I believe there's a Preston Stewart video kind of detailing the momentum shift, let's just say, on the Ukrainian side and not on the Russian side. So all that to talk about and more if we have time. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Thank you to the mods. Thank you to the chat for making this possible. A little housekeeping here. Up in the corner here is a Venmo. If you find 4 quarters in the couch cushion somewhere today, and you can send that into the Venmo in support of independent media, which is what we are, truly grassroots, truly built from the ground up and supported from the ground. We have no sponsors, backers, financial supporters, anything like that. This live stream, this podcast, whatever you want to call it, isn't going to be interrupted on my behalf because of ads or me selling you any stupid products. We have a merch site which keeps this going. But again, those are our designs. That is for us, by us, and with us. So again, thank you guys to all of the people on Patreon. Thank you to all of the people signing up for YouTube memberships just underneath me. The people that are gifting those YouTube memberships, which is another option on YouTube here, and then everybody else on all of the other platforms for liking, sharing, subscribing, the bits over there on Twitch. It really goes to help the channel. So I really appreciate you guys. Let's dive into, again, like we've been starting off the last couple shows, and we'll continue to start off these shows. Oops, sorry, let me take that off the screen. There you go. This on there because you guys have once again done your part overnight and made us get over the $10,000 raised mark. So again, in about the first week of this, which is absolutely incredible for a channel of this size. Let me throw this on the screen because, like I said, we're at €8,995, which is again about $10,400 and something dollars and a little bit of change. So again, in the first week, a little bit over a week, to have a channel of this size perform like this and raising funds. Again, even if you're just involved in sharing this out, even if you're just involved in, posting this on social media, wherever you're posting this, whoever you're telling about this. And again, even if you're involved in this, sorry, I'm trying to switch headphones on the fly here as it died within the first 7 seconds of the show somehow. But yeah, any way that you guys are involved in helping this along, whether it's, putting in money yourself, every $5 and $10 donation goes a long way to help, whether or not you've put in more than that, or like I said, you've posted it on social media, told friends, family, co-workers about it. But to, again, have 67 separate donations, now 43% of the way to our goal already. I think last time it took somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 months, almost a little bit under 2 months, I want to say, for our first campaign. So to be roughly halfway through our second campaign in the first week is really good to see, and it just shows you guys how involved and supportive and generous you guys are, and how much you mean what you say when you guys in the chat say Slava Ukraine, and you say that you're supporters, and you say that you're willing to step up. You are willing to step up, and this proves it time and time again. So let's keep pushing. Thank you guys so much for getting us to this point. Let's see if we can get to that 50% mark. That would be amazing. To get under 2 weeks would be substantial. So what do you say we thank just a couple people that were on the wall? And then we'll get on to, again, the Apache helicopter and the apparent rescue that took place in the reporting that suggests that Iran, once again, has the capabilities to do these types of acts, where Donald Trump says that Iran has no military capabilities right after he says that he didn't attack their military. But then again, right before he says that they have no more military capabilities, again, we have to, talk about stories like this. But before we dive into that, thank you to Gregory. Thank you to Arthur. Thank you to Thomas. Thank you to Philippe. Thank you to Colleen as well. MJ, Hugo, Dame, Moms, Rox, Alicia, Nance, Thomas and Victoria. Thank you so much. Nicole, Christina, Yakov, from everybody here at Blunt Politics. Yakov again, Berja, Mark, all of you guys. I mean, look at Yakov stepping up here. I mean, he's taken over that wall at this point. So thank you guys, all of you guys, for stepping up in a major, major way. And hopefully we can continue this push, continue this momentum, and get this finished. And you never know. Hopefully you may even see my face over there in Ukraine getting to hand this over personally. Again, that is, we'll keep our fingers crossed as far as that is concerned. But, it's only because of your help, your generosity for this channel, and getting us, past 20,000 subscribers, on our way to 25,000 subscribers, and people taking notice that we're able to do things like this. So thank you again. Big round of applause to the audience. Thank you guys so much for your participation. But again, let's dive on to this first story that everybody's talking about. And like I said, how ridiculous it is for people to consistently call this a ceasefire and then have to report on things like this is just, again, never ceases to amaze me. But this is just, this is the statement put out by CENTCOM. This was at 7:33 p.m. Eastern Time, June 8th. 2 crew members from a U.S. Army Apache AH-64 helicopter were rescued by American forces after the helicopter went down near the coast of Oman while patrolling regional waters. The soldiers were safely rescued within approximately 2 hours and are in stable condition. The cause of the incident is under investigation. We'll talk about that. Rescue efforts were led by the U.S. Naval Forces Central Command and the 82nd Airborne Division with support from U.S. Air Force and Navy units, including U.S. 5th Fleet's Task Force 59. So again, that was the statement put out by CENTCOM, which again has been found to have stretched the truth, let's just say, or just outright lied on behalf of this administration and Donald Trump multiple times. So we always say, take everything you hear from them with a grain of salt. So let's see if we can get some further reporting, because there was this clip here. Should I throw this on? Let me throw this on first, and then we'll dig into that Fox News propaganda clip so you can see the difference. So this was put out by Reuters, and this says, Trump blames Iran for helicopter attack, says U.S. must respond. Right? So again, showing the not only willingness and ability, but also the lies that Donald Trump has been telling you about Iran's military capabilities, their missile launches, their drone capability. Well, if we're still seeing shit like this, obviously it's one, not a ceasefire, and two, clearly their military capabilities haven't been eradicated like Donald Trump would have you believe. So this says, Trump on Tuesday said Iran shot down a U.S. Apache helicopter that was patrolling the Strait of Hormuz overnight and vowed to respond, but gave no other details. Quote, I have just been informed by our great military that last night the Iranians shot down one of our highly sophisticated Apache helicopters while patrolling over the Strait of Hormuz, Trump wrote on a social media post. Nevertheless, the United States must, of necessity, respond to this attack, he added. And I don't know if it goes on any further to say anything else. But again, that's about as much as you need to hear from the president confirming that the Iranians were responsible for this. And then again, you can compare this and contrast that to the way that Fox News and their propaganda station reports this. I just want to throw this on. This is from, what's the guy's name? Trey Yingst or something like that. So he's actually reporting on the rescue. And listen to how he's very willing to still call this a ceasefire. Again, at the very moment, he's reporting on the Iranians shooting down an Apache helicopter and the necessity for the United States to have to then go rescue 2 of the pilots after 2 hours of bobbing around in the Strait of Hormuz, apparently. But, as you just saw, Reuters reporting, I'll put this back on the screen. Trump blames Iran for a helicopter attack, says U.S. must respond. And then this is Fox News and the way they report it. Again, this is just a minute or two of...
What about the Middle East? President Trump is still pushing for a deal with Iran and says that we could have an idea of the potential peace agreement in the coming days.
We could have an idea. What the fuck does that mean? Again, is that like concepts of a deal? Right? Is that concepts of a plan at this point? We're going to have an idea of what a potential, maybe at some point deal might sound like within the potential next 2 days to 2 weeks to 2 months to 2 years to who knows at this point. You know what I mean? It's like the way in which they have to stretch and change their rhetoric to make it seem like, again, consistently. And I thought I saw reported before we came on that it's been, I think it was in the 30s, like something around 35, 36 different times that Donald Trump has reported a deal just around the corner, or Barack Ravid has reported a deal just around the corner. And you just hold on, just hold your horses there, Bessie, and we're going to have a deal in no time at all, lickety split, right? And then time and time again, we've seen missiles and drones be launched, ships be shot out of the Strait of Hormuz, Iran attack different Gulf nations, U.S. bases getting hit, again, while they're trying to still call this a ceasefire. It's like, we're not stupid, right? At what point do you have to recognize that we all know what the fuck's taking place? We see the reports. We see Israel still attacking into Lebanon, even after this, heated phone call and exchange between Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, which apparently now, on further reporting, wasn't as heated as originally reported, which is what we all thought. Donald Trump definitely seemed to give at least tacit permission to Benjamin Netanyahu to strike inside of Iran, as much as he'd like to have you believe that he was a big, strong, tough guy and told him not to. Well, again, he told him not to continue his strikes into Lebanon, and look what we continue to see. So, again, sorry to cut this off so quickly, but it just Fox News propaganda needs to be called out.
Foreign correspondent Trey Yates joins us live from Tel Aviv with more. Trey, what can you tell us? Yeah, hey guys, good morning. We're tracking another development as well. A U.S. Apache helicopter went down near the Strait of Hormuz on Monday. Now, President Trump says the crew members are doing fine, and we are still gathering more information on what took place. It's not clear if the gunship went down due to enemy fire or a mechanical issue.
Well, it seems like if you ask Reuters and President Trump, he's pretty sure about why it came down, and it definitely wasn't because of mechanical failure. Let's just say it was mechanical failure to get out of the way of a missile or a drone, apparently. And again, as reported here by Reuters, Trump blaming Iran for the helicopter attack. So I want to just drill that point home, as Fox loves to sit here and be like, well, we don't know exactly what took place. Oh my God, please tell me he just called it a ceasefire. Please tell me he just called it a ceasefire. As the ceasefire is holding, he's reporting on an Apache helicopter. Apparently, there's only two options, as you know, and let's just give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he didn't hear of the reporting. Maybe he didn't see Reuters or didn't hear what Trump said about Iran being responsible. But we'll give him that much and say maybe this came out before then. But there's only two options: mechanical failure or Iran shot the shit down. You know what I mean? That's about it as far as that's concerned. So to the way in which you can consistently report this as a ceasefire, as you're reporting on, again, two pilots needing to be rescued out of the Strait of Hormuz because their Apache got knocked out of the sky, right, is pretty ridiculous. It's just, come on. Like, at what point do you start sounding like, do you start hearing your own voice in your own words and recognizing that you sound like a moron? To consistently say ceasefire in this situation is crazy to me. Oh, we'll get there. Don't jump the gun here. Don't jump the gun. We got plenty to come from that as well. Yeah, just give me like 2 or 3 days, just after like we bomb them and retaliate for, again, them shooting down the helicopter, and then us taking out the radar stations, and then them sending missiles into the Gulf state, and then them hitting our U.S. bases. Like, after all that's done, give me like 2-3 days maybe, and then you'll have some sort of an idea. We'll get like a concept of a plan, of an idea of a possible, maybe at some point, peace plan that, where great talks are happening. Great talks are happening, people. Great talks are happening. So don't worry. But yeah, he does. Forever Young says he forgot New York City hates him. We'll get there. We'll get there. Don't worry. I promise we will get there. But all right, that was like, you can see the difference in way, in the way in which like Fox News has to report this. The propaganda outlet known as Fox News has to report on this. They have to consistently keep telling you just 2 days, just another day. Give us another. I know there's bombs being dropped. I understand. I know there's bombs in Beirut. I know there's bombs being lobbed into U.S. bases, and I know all of that's still taking place, right? And I know helicopters are being shot out of the sky. That's all happening. But just, like, give us 2 days. Yeah, I know. You couldn't hear. That was my fault. I had it on the I know. I understand. My apologies. I thank you. I didn't switch it back when it was playing. That was my fault. That was my fault. But anyway, it was Trey Yanks there on Fox News, basically still calling it a ceasefire as he's reporting on an Apache helicopter being shot down, and the two pilots having to be rescued out of the Strait of Hormuz, apparently. But this brings us to kind of this development in this situation as well. Let me grab that off the screen. Sorry about that. There you go. But yeah, this brings us to this situation, which we've been warning for. I've warned about this since this thing kicked off. They said they would possibly do this. And again, we were talking about what the ramifications would be, what the impacts would be if they did enact this. And it seems like it's getting closer and closer to becoming reality, right? So this is put out by Euro News. This is Houthis join Iran warfight, threatened Red Sea shipping amount amid Hormuz closure. Right, so we've already seen the Houthis, striking inside of Israel. Now they've threatened to stop all of the Israeli shipping going through the Red Sea. We've seen from historical instances before where the Houthis have tried to take control over the Red Sea and stop shipping, that they weren't necessarily the most accurate. Or the ships that they were saying that they were going after wasn't necessarily the ships that they did in fact strike. let's just say, trying to put it mildly. So again, this has a huge impact on whether or not these shipping companies will send their ships through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, which is responsible for 12% of global shipping. So it says Yemen's Houthis declared a ban on Israeli shipping in the Red Sea and claimed a missile strike on Israel, with the Bab el-Mandeb and Hormuz blockades now simultaneously threatening roughly a third of the world's seaborne oil and gas. So you thought things were bad. You thought oil prices were high. You thought gas prices were high just with the Strait of Hormuz being closed. Well, wait until the Strait is closed and the Bab el-Mandeb is closed, and no shipping is getting through this entire area at all whatsoever. So this says Yemen's Houthi rebels have joined the fight in the Iran war on Tehran's side, announcing a missile attack on Israel on Monday and declaring a ban on Israeli shipping in the Red Sea, putting the waterway in danger, along with the Gulf of Aden and the narrow Bab el-Mandeb Strait connecting them. During the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza, the Houthis harassed cargo ships in the vital seaway through which about $1 trillion of goods passes each year, nearly 200 attacks forcing many companies into a lengthy detour around the tip of southern Africa, which it says here generally adds about 14 days, adding significant costs as far as fuel, as far as payment of the crew. Those added costs will filter down to whatever is being shipped, and then when those added costs actually get added on to whatever's being shipped, you inevitably will pay that added cost at the end of that supply chain, right? When you go buy it at the grocery store, when you fill your tank up at the gas station, whatever it is, when you order your whatever on Amazon, like you'll be paying that price to make up for the extra 14 days, the extra fuel being used, the extra pay for the captain and crew. Like all of these things will go to just expound the problems that we've seen, put on the world economy since the Iran war started. That says the Houthis paused the attacks after the Gaza ceasefire in October 2025, but warned they would resume if the Iran war escalated, which we've talked about, and they've threatened. Right, the announcement simultaneously places two of the world's most critical maritime choke points under threat. The Bab el-Mandeb, just 26 kilometers wide at its narrow point, connects the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden and the wider Indian Ocean. Roughly 12% of global maritime trade passes through it. So again, you can see how many, what percentage-wise would be affected by this closure. Again, add 14 days onto the shipping of 12% of global maritime trade, above and on top of what's being kind of paused and the problems being caused by the Strait of Hormuz being closed. And obviously it becomes clear what problems we'll be facing here. It says, we declared, quote, we declare a complete and total ban on Israeli maritime navigation in the Red Sea, said a statement from the Houthis armed forces. Quote, we consider all enemy movements to be legitimate military targets for our armed forces from the moment this statement is issued. So again, all they have to do is lob a drone, lob a missile into the strait every so often, every couple hours, once a day, and that will have an impact on all of the shipping, right? If they threaten, even though they're threatening Israeli shipping right now, like all they have to do is show their willingness to actually send drones and missiles into the strait, and that will impact all of the shipping. Either the price for insurance is going to go sky high, or these shipping companies are just right off the bat going to say, we're not going to risk our crew, we're not going to risk our boats, we're not going to risk the goods that, the commodities that we're trying to get from point A to point B. We're just going to go around the way we know we can go. It's going to be added cost, but again, we'll have that filtered down to the people buying this at the end, and we're going to make our money no matter what. So just to show you that this is absolutely being discussed more often now, and let me throw this on the screen. This kind of drills it home a little bit more. And again, this is from Reuters. The commander of the IRGC Quds Force, Ismail Khani, said a new security belt of, quote, resistance will be established from the Strait of Hormuz to the Bab el-Mandeb Strait off of Yemen and from the Gulf of the Red Sea, according to comments carried by state media. Iranian officials use the term resistance or axis of resistance now to refer to Iranian allies in the region, including Yemen's Houthis. So we're now showing a clear alliance, right? This axis of resistance, now calling it the resistance. Obviously, the threats now to the Bab el-Mandeb. Sounds like they're getting more I don't know what you'd want to say, coordinated maybe in their attacks, in their threats, and now carrying out these actions that were just threats months ago, weeks ago. Obviously, we're going to have to continue keeping our eye on this. It says many ships have passed through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, are broadcasting messages that they had, quote, armed guards on board, have, quote, Chinese ship and crew, or have no link to Israel. So obviously, they're worried about being struck. They're making it quite clear that they're not Israeli ships or that they do have armed guards on board. This is the problem, right? All it takes is one ship that's not an actual Israeli ship, but the Houthis thought was an Israeli ship, or a missile that goes off course, or a drone that goes off course, hits a ship or hits around a ship that's not an Israeli ship, and there goes the fucking ball game, right? If the ball game hasn't gone already. That's pretty much what we saw in the beginnings of the Strait of Hormuz as well, right? It's just it was take it at your own risk, and then it was the insurance companies saying hell no, and then it was the shipping companies after that saying we're not taking the risk either, and then we've been at this stalemate ever since. So that is just kind of that in a nutshell, but obviously something we're going to have to continue keeping our eyes on as far as the Houthis' movements and their actions inside of the Bab el-Mandeb. And obviously we'll continue to talk about what impacts, economic impacts that's going to have on your life and basically everybody else on this planet because of how interconnected we all are. But all right, let's dive on to the main feature, right? Let's dive on to what most people are discussing at this moment in time, which is the fact that Trump showed up to the Knicks game just to sleep, just to sit there, stuff his face with some pizza, fart and snore on the couch. He wanted to basically just disrupt the whole city and make it very difficult for people to enjoy themselves at this game, just for the fact that, he wanted to go take a quick nap and get booed. So like I said, we're going to be showing all of the different angles here, him sleeping, him getting booed, and obviously how the right wing has hijacked these same clips to say that it was like the most glorious night, right? It was like the most glorious reception, just to kind of show you a little bit of the Twilight Zone aspect. Like I said, we talked about this a little bit last night in the Zoom, and it's like, how can these two things be living in the same reality, right? How can, let's just say, for instance, Aaron Rupar be like, okay, listen to how loud these boos were, right? And then you'll have somebody on the right wing, I don't know, pick your right wing commentator or idiot on Twitter saying that same clip, taking that same clip of the boos, quite clearly being heard from blocks away, you know what I mean? And taking that clip and saying, wow, look at the reception that Donald Trump got. Look at how many, look at how many people were cheering. Look how loud the cheers were. Look at his smile. And it's like, what the fuck? How is this the timeline that we're in, right? How is this the moment that we're in where the propaganda has gotten so bad that they quite literally tried to take the same clips that we're using on this side to show you how dumb, demented, corrupt, whatever it may be at that moment in time they are. And then they're using that same clip to be like, look at how awesome these people are. It's like, wait a minute here. What the hell is going on? But like I said, we'll take a look at all of these different clips. Most people, again, with any brain cells roaming around in their head, eyes and ears, saw pretty clearly that he got booed about as loudly as anybody's been booed in any stadium. So again, like I said, we'll take a look at a couple of these clips. This is Trump shown on camera during the national anthem and is booed loudly at MSG. They show him on the Jumbotron for a second, and like I said, it's not like you have to listen too closely to figure out what the reception was like, let's just say. But here we go. Last gleaming, whose brush stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights, where the ramparts we won. So it's pretty clear to see and hear from that clip alone what the reception was like. But like I said, there's about 1 billion of these from different angles and people in there. Let's see if we can get one of these other ones, because I don't want to go right to him sleeping. You don't want to go right to the good part. Let's see here. This is where this is where he's so delusional that even he thinks that it was a good reception, right? He was asked, what do you think of the reception you got at the Knicks game? It was certainly amazing. I think it was mostly cheers. It was loud and it was very enthusiastic. It's like, come on. But right, here's Eric Doherty, right? Eric Doherty being one of those idiots that was like right on Twitter trying to say how unbelievable the reception was. But let's see if we can find a couple of these other ones here. Let's see this one. Because again, apparently there was some discrepancies from what was shown or how much was shown on the actual broadcast or heard on the broadcast, I should say, to what it was like being in Madison Square Garden. So there's a couple clips from people that were recording inside that, and it makes it very apparent right off the bat what was going on here. So again, here's this clip. This says the boos just happened again, and Trump stops clapping as they got even louder by the end of the clip. This is humiliating, posted by Call to Activism. What an absolute twat. Like, to fucking go through all that trouble, right? Whether it's security and people having to show up 2 hours early and, events being canceled, whatever it was, like to sit there, show up, get your ass booed out of the stadium, stuff your face with a couple slices of pizza, and then fucking conk out on the couch. Come on. Like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? Take Gramps to the home, get him some pizza, throw on Wheel of Fortune, let him take his naps. Let's let the adults handle this, right? Let's have the big boys and girls try to get us out of the shitty situation that he's gotten us into. But I know that's too much to ask. Of course, his fucking skanky little niece in a mini skirt got to stand there. Again, not a good look for a guy that's been named in the Epstein files more than Jeffrey Epstein, him goddamn self, right? Named in the Epstein files more than Jesus is named in the Bible, to sit there with his skanky dog. What's she, niece or something like that? I forget at this point. Doesn't matter. But while she sits there in a little trashy outfit. Listen to the boos. Jesus. I mean, again, how anybody could pull these clips, and it's not even like they changed the audio. It's not. We went through them last night, like I said on the Zoom. It's not like they were even attempting to change the audio. They just played the clips of the boos and were like, oh, look at how awesome this is. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, what's happening? Like, here's one from Bryant Park, right? Trump also brutally booed at the Bryant Park Knicks watch party. So both inside and outside the stadium, he was booed quite loudly. Let's see if they try to flip this around as being like a great reception at some point. This is the one where we were trying to look last night of pictures of people giving him the finger while Donald Trump's on the screen, but you can see them giving the finger. He's just never at the same time. So. And cue Trump on the Jumbotron. I mean, could you tell the moment he got on the Jumbotron? I'm just curious. Could you tell the exact moment in which Trump was shown on screen? Yeah. I don't know. So you can see the smirk there from Kai too. Like, she knows, she recognizes what's going on in that stadium. She's no dummy. She might not be as deaf as Donald Trump is, apparently, but here he is snoozing, right? Donald Trump has fallen asleep at the NBA Finals game in Madison Square Garden, and it looks like, who's this dickhead sitting next to him? Is this the NBA owner? Is this the Knicks owner or something? Because it looks like he's just as asleep as Donald Trump is. It looks like he can't stay awake either. Right? Here's this moment. Those eyes are closed. Okay. Those eyes are closed on the right. Those eyes are closed on the left. I mean, look at him breathing. Yeah, that's a half yawn. No, I'm awake. No, yeah, no, that was a bad call. I don't know. Let me close my eyes again. I mean, I don't know. Up there he is. Now he's up. Yep, I'm up. Unreal, this guy. Unfucking real. The guy couldn't stay awake at a concert, for Christ's sakes, if he was stood right next to the speaker, right? So here's where they try to portray this as some like unbelievable, fantastic USA chant. I'll let you guys listen for yourselves. Kind of muted in the background, if you ask me, and definitely drowned out by a lot of the people that clearly have some negative things to say about Donald Trump. Ready? So it lasted about 2, maybe 3 USAs. Here's Midas Touch posted. Trump takes a long blink during the NBA Finals. Again, this is from Stephen Chung having to post on Twitter every time he falls asleep in the Oval Office that he's just blinking. I'll turn down the music. But you can hear there's a full-blown game going on, right? Organs going on in the background. People are cheering, fucking chants going on. And these two fucking Muppets are sleeping up in the balcony. Right? Millions of dollars in Secret Service. Who God knows how many people had to change their plans or didn't end up doing whatever they were, they thought they were going to get to do before the game because they had to leave so goddamn early, right? Streets that were closed off, parties that couldn't happen. Also, this guy, yep, there you go, fucking fought, sleep, and yawn on the couch next to his rich prick buddy there. Unreal. And there's a couple there, we'll go on, where he gets booed and heckled outside as he drives by. So let's see, just to show all these so the right can't hijack all these and say that they were like, a warm, welcoming reception by New Yorkers, because it's clearly not what we're seeing here. So there's this little convoy going by, getting a warm welcome and reception from the New Yorkers. That's where he's again asked, what about the reception? He thought it was fantastic. There's a close-up of him sleeping. Let's see here. There was a couple of him stuffing his face with burgers. Was it pizza or something like that as well? There's got to be a couple of them here. But here's where they try to hijack. Here's Matt Wallace. So same clips that we just saw. Same clips that we all just saw. Same boos that we all just heard. Same crowd reaction that we all just were immersed in, right? Same clip posted while listen to the cheering in Madison Square Garden as they show Trump on screen. What? Wait a minute. I'm sorry. Are you listening to different audio than we'll listen to? And I'll play the clip that he plays. This is the clip that he posted. Listen to it. Ready? I guarantee it's the same boos. The same clip, same boos that we heard, clear boos, posted, but wow, listen to the cheering in Madison Square Garden as they show Trump on screen. Like, what alternate planet are you living on? New York is supposedly one of the most liberal places on the planet, and they react like this. Yes, with boos. What? Hello? I am more convinced than ever that the election fraud is a million times worse than we know. So that's what he's using, this justification, this clip, to justify his ridiculous thoughts on some election fraud that they have yet to been able to prove anywhere, right? And it goes on, right? Because there's left-wing accounts clearly calling it out for what it is, and then right-wing accounts posting that same shit like it's the greatest thing ever. Here's Eagleman as he's fucking passed out. Trump's passed out. President Trump enjoying some fries watching the Knicks. Yep, stuffing his fat-ass face with his fat-ass fries. And they think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. You know what I mean? It's like, what the hell? You guys are easily amused, clearly. Let's see. There's one where he's, what's this one? The crowd at Madison Square Garden cheers as President Trump is once again shown on the Jumbotron. Tonight, President Trump becomes the first sitting U.S. president to attend an NBA Finals game and to get booed out of that same NBA Finals game. Nick Sorter, another one. The sweet President Trump is in Madison Square Garden, is fully encased in bulletproof glass. Secret Service not sparing any expense. It's a real shame we have to do this. Well, again, at least he's calling out the necessity for the bulletproof glass there because of how unpopular Donald Trump is. So again, that probably wouldn't go hand in hand with the loud cheering that they say happened. Let's see. Here's another one. Do not listen to the fake news media at all. Thousands of patriots broke out in USA chants after President Trump walked in. Such a historical moment tonight. America loves Trump. Like, they're fucking delusional. Imagine the reaction if Trump walked into Madison Square Garden tonight with Charles Oakley. That must have been before it even happened. But let's see here. Let's see if I can do Trump Knicks. We'll see where I'll show you where he's stuffing his face with the fucking with the pizza, and then we'll move on, because it's pretty clear from what you guys just saw, the clips that you guys saw, and there's clips from all over the place from people sitting in different sections of the stadium, of the arena there, showing their video from the national anthem, from when Trump was on the Jumbotron, from when he got booed, and it was the loudest boos you could ever hear. Like, even more so because we talked about last night, like the channel is also pumping in the guy that was singing the national anthem, right? So you're not getting just the crowd sound. you're getting the crowd sound, a little bit of the crowd sound, and obviously the guy singing the national anthem. But the people on their cell phones were getting a lot more of the crowd reaction, a lot more of the actual crowd noise than they were getting the national anthem. So it gives a little bit better representation of what the crowd reaction was. But here's Trump stuffing his face next to Howard Nutlick. I'll take the sound down, play this as he stuffs his giant fat fucking orange face there. Yep. Cheeks like a fucking chipmunk. He's probably about 3 slices in the right cheek, seeing if he can stick another 3 slices in the left cheek, because he's got to take some home, Got to get his money's worth out of that sweet. And you can see Sean Duffy here just above my head. Obviously, Howard Nutlick. A bunch of them corrupt cocksuckers were at this game with him. But didn't do the Knicks much good, because the bad karma, the bad energy, the bad vibes that Donald Trump brought to the stadium, apparently it was enough to, do away with their win streak. I think they had won 12 or 13 straight before Donald Trump decided to show up to Madison Square Garden. But yes, the Spurs took it down 115 to 111. But, not that Donald Trump stayed awake to see the final score, unless they woke him up a couple times and actually told him what was going on. I'm not sure. But let's see here. This was when the national anthem was being played at Madison Square Garden. The image of the Big Mouth, who was present in the stadium to watch the NBA Finals, was shown on the screens. Here's one from, again, this is not from the broadcast. This is from somebody sat in the stadium. So you're not getting the half-piped-in national anthem, half-piped-in a little bit of the crowd noise, which was still very obvious and clear to make out that they were boos. But this is somebody sitting in, a different portion, different section of the stadium. So here's the boos as well. So, right, clear boos, clear negative reaction from the entire place. Let's see here. That's the one from Bryant Park. Crowd at Bryant Park watch party also booed. So here's another angle of them reacting to Trump going on the Jumbotron. And I'm going to play all of them. Oh, look at all the fingers. Everybody there giving him the finger or telling him to fucking piss off, or in some way doing the bafangul, giving him something there. And they're not positive reactions, I can assure you, right? But again, I don't think we need to get into too much more of that. Pretty clear to see. But the clear alternate universe that everybody's living in on the right, these propagandists and these paid people on Twitter here that are literally their only job is to take all of the losses, take all of the embarrassing moments that Donald Trump's a part of, and somehow try to turn those into a victory, or to, again, soften the blow in any way, right? They may not be able to get it across like it was a great reaction, but if they can soften the blow on the MAGA side, from people on the MAGA base to people these maggots still watching this shit that see the boos, right? If they can then go on to Matt Wallace or Eric Doherty's, Twitter account and be like, well, they were cheering for him. They said he was cheering for him. So maybe it was like half and half. You know what I mean? It's like, no, clearly these people are getting paid from either the White House themselves or somebody closely affiliated with the White House to try to twist and turn reality into their, ridiculous agenda, whatever you want to call it. But all right, let's see if we can dive on here. This was something that I was pretty excited to dive into with you guys. Here's a podcast we haven't checked out before, so some new content. And again, credit where credit is due. This is The News Agents. Maybe you guys in the chat are familiar. I know we have some overseas viewers as well, so you guys might be more up to speed and hip to this show than I am. But like I said, they're questioning, is Trump impotent? And I know, like I said, my apologies. I know that brings very bad images into your head, and that's not the question that we're asking. The question is more pertaining to the Iran war. Like I said, Trump backing himself into a corner. Does he have any off ramp, anything like that? So again, this is, and I'm not sure the names. I wish I knew the names. It says here Emily Matlis and John Sopel. I'm not 100% sure if that's 100% sure if that's who's on this. But again, this gentleman does have some pretty clear and concise things to say about not only Donald Trump's actions, but where we're likely to go, and obviously how impotent Donald Trump is as far as his power and control over Benjamin Netanyahu and the Iran war, basically on a broader basis. So like I said, credit where credit is due. This is the News Agents, 240,000 subscribers. This was put out June 8th. So yesterday got roughly 100,000 views. So we'll dive into a few minutes of this. If I can, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. My name is Brian. I really do appreciate you guys for taking the time out of your day to get some news, to get some facts, to get some opinions, to join the resistance. Whatever reason brought you here, I thank you for being here. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, make it worth it. And again, there's Venmo up in the corner. This is an independent channel with no financial backers, no ads, no anything like that. So if you find a buck or two somewhere within your day that you can do away with, and it's not going to be a problem somewhere in a different aspect of your daily life, then send it into the Venmo. And a buck or two is all we ask for. Anything above and beyond that has to do with your financial situation. If you think we deserve that, that's totally up to you guys. But like I said, $1 or $2 from everybody in the chat would go a long, long way. So there's also patreon.com and YouTube memberships just underneath me. And big shout out to you guys. Thank you. All right, let's dive into this one. Like I said, is Trump impotent? And I'm sorry again.
Donald Trump went into this to destroy Iran's nuclear capability. And what he's clearly given them is a much better alternative to a nuclear weapon.
He seems utterly powerless or in a position where limits of American power have been reached. And the idea that it can just tell a nation what to do and they will just salute politely and say, yes, sir, is not happening now.
On the one hand, he's making a very clear point there. 100 days of epic fury is not 19 years. On the other hand, what an idiot.
The haunting sound of air raid sirens in northern Israel last night. Civilians scurrying to air raid shelters and the sound of explosions in the sky as the ceasefire between Israel and Iran looks like it is in tatters.
President Trump has demanded that Israel and Iran stop shooting. The trouble is, they're just ignoring him. Is he impotent now? Welcome to the News Agents.
The News Agents.
It's John.
It's Mateless.
And like two squabbling children and a parent who can't control them, it's hard to know who started it because the fingers are pointing in either direction. Was it Israel attacking the suburbs of Beirut? Was it the provocation of Hezbollah? Was it Iran firing the missiles? Was it Israel firing back? I mean, you pays your money and you takes your choice, frankly. But undoubtedly, the most significant escalation came with Iran firing ballistic missiles into northern Israel last night. Donald Trump saying, this has to stop. I demand that it stops. And an hour after that, Israel saying, you know what, we're retaliating and firing their own missiles and bombers flying over Iran to retaliate.
Yeah, I mean, certainly from Iran's perspective, they're saying we've had enough. It holds the US directly responsible for what they call ceasefire breaches because they say that Israel's military activities, actions in Lebanon, which have been creeping higher and higher up towards the capital.
And they've stated this from the beginning. This has been, again, a line in the sand for the Iranians since Benjamin Netanyahu decided to enact this war inside of Lebanon. The same thing that they've been saying, the same thing that they've been sending to the United States, asking or telling the United States that they need to agree to, or none of these talks are going to happen, is the same thing that they're saying now. Right. So the more we're seeing Netanyahu defy both Donald Trump's apparent wishes and demands of him to stop, and obviously the Iranians' demands, the less likely this peace agreement becomes, and the less off ramps, if any at all, are obviously afforded to Donald Trump. And which is why Donald Trump's getting a lot more anxious per the reporting is concerned. He's either too bored with this and scared that Netanyahu is not going to allow him to get this deal done or any deal done or to get out of this at all. will, and he's going to have to keep doing this or escalate even further. But, it seems to be that's the plan from Netanyahu, is to consistently make sure that this war persists, make sure that, his power in Israel is solidified as long as they're engaged in these battles. And, he's deemed to be the only one that can save them from all of these threats and shit. But, they go on here.
It's not just areas where Israel is legitimately claiming there are Hezbollah targets, but right the way up the country. They say that those actions cannot be separated from US policies. And the Iranians say the actions of the Zionist entity within the region cannot be looked at in isolation from the United States. In other words, what are they doing? They're landing it all back on Donald Trump's plate. If you can't control Netanyahu, if you can't control Israel, then we will do that for you. And we will do that by firing rockets into the West Bank, into Israel, into a country that you have no control over right now. And so Trump has tried to knock heads together. He gave an interview yesterday where he said, I hold the cards, I call all the shots, I call all the shots, but he doesn't. What has become very apparent, if it weren't before, is that in the last 24 hours, he cannot control what Iran does, and he cannot control what Netanyahu does.
So again, this is the rest of the world recognizing, again, the impotence, as they ask in their question here, of Donald Trump, of the United States president at this current time, right? As he said in the opening there, that time where, people are looking at or viewing the United States, or the United States views itself as a military power, basically so strong that we can snap our fingers or threaten military action, and the country is just supposed to either give up their leader or, curtail themselves to democracy the way that we see fit, or anything along those lines, is kind of come to an end, right? It's pretty clear that not only can we not, control the Iranians, is our blockade of the Strait of Hormuz not enough to take down the Iranian regime, take down the Iranian state, but also our military actions, all of the thousands of targets that were hit, all of the ships that were sunk, all of the aircraft that were shot out of the sky or hit while they were on the ground. Apparently, that hasn't had the effect, which is something that we've been saying this entire time, that the United States and Donald Trump has tried to get you to believe that it's had. So this is, other people around the world now recognizing the futility that Donald Trump can't control the Iranians and definitely can't control Benjamin Netanyahu. So, like I said, it's sometimes it's a lot more eye-opening for me to get the outside sources, to get people from the outside looking in, from not inside of the United States media space at all, and get their kind of clear, concise reporting and all this. And it matches up, obviously, a lot in the way that we've been speaking about this. Obviously, different liberals, progressives, lefties have been speaking about this. So, it's good to see that, you're consistently on the same page. And even the way that the gentleman there, what's his name, John Sopel, was reporting on it is kind of how erratic this has become. Was it because of Israel doing something? Was it because of Iran doing something? Was it because the United States did something? Like, the reporting is inconsistent. The statements from all sides doesn't match up, at any point in time, whether it's with the peace talks or, again, accounting of different actions, military actions that have taken place. None of it lines up. So it's difficult to get, a clear indication of not only what happened, why it happened, but where we're going to go from here.
Not stopped him from telling journalists, including Ed Luce from the Financial Times, who we're going to hear from a little bit later, that he is in control, but he ain't.
I honestly think in years to come, people will look at Epic Fury, Operation Epic Fury, as Donald Trump was so proud to call it on the 28th of February, will look at this as one of the greatest strategic failures in modern warfare, where you say,
and I think that's what a lot of people are saying. Military experts, political commentators, people from inside the United States and outside of the United States. The longer this drags on, the more you look at the originally stated goals, the originally stated timelines, all of the bravado and fucking chest beating, chest thumping, war humping that Pete Hegseth and Trump were doing in the first days, the opening days of this war, and how much was taken out and how greatly, how great the success was from the military and how overwhelming, we've achieved our victories and shit, like all of that fucking, the war beating that they were doing, the war drums. It's now being recognized now that Operation Epstein Fury, right, whatever they're calling that first part of the war. I know it's ridiculous to have to, play along with their games of the name changes and, Project Freedom, Operation Epstein Fury, and them trying to get around congressional approval. But anyway, it's pretty clear to a lot of people that this is going to be looked at as one of the biggest, if not the biggest, military blunders and strategic failures in U.S. military history. And again, Donald Trump being the commander in chief at a time where that took place. So he said it pretty clearly, pretty concisely there. I'll let him say it again.
Epic fury, as Donald Trump was so proud to call it on the 28th of February, will look at this as one of the greatest strategic failures in modern warfare, where you say what we're going to do is, in short order, we're going to overturn the regime. We are going to stop their ballistic missile program. We are going to destroy their military, and we are going to retake their nuclear material. And it's all going to happen very quickly. And here we are, over 100 days on from that. And Iran, the regime is in place. The sun has taken over from Ayatollah Khamenei. You have got the Republican Guard still able, with command and control, to fire missiles with precision into Israel and into Gulf states.
And allegedly, apparently, as been reported by Reuters, apparently they can still take out Apache helicopters from their patrols over and around the Strait of Hormuz as well.
No progress made on the nuclear material, and the Strait of Hormuz, which was open before the 28th of February, is still firmly shut, driving up prices.
So what's that, 0 for 6? I lost track of how many things he stated there. So we were what, 0 for 6 on that? Regime change, all of the other things that he listed there. Obviously, the Strait of Hormuz problem, the problems to the world economy that we've seen there. It's just, I think we're 0 for 6 as far as stated goals. The enriched uranium still haven't been handed over to any. To any situation or degree that Donald Trump said it was going to be. We're going to be handing them potentially and most likely billions and billions of dollars in return. So, yeah, I think like 0 for 6.
And the United States kidded themselves that they could achieve this militarily and it would all be done so quickly. And nothing like that has happened. The regime is in place. Israel and the US have fired endless missiles, have committed millions and billions of dollars to this campaign, and they haven't succeeded.
Yeah. And I think to try and understand what is behind some of this, from Israel's perspective, you have to go inside Netanyahu's mindset and you have to go inside his party's mindset, because the more that Likud heard that a deal was imminent between Tehran and Washington, the more concerned they got. They thought that this would hurt Netanyahu's chance of re-election. And I've been talking to Israeli political experts. One of them, Ayala Panievsky, friend of the podcast, has put it like this. She says, Netanyahu is always thinking about two things: his trial and the elections. Currently, this exchange of missiles, just today...
Whoa, what happened? Where'd it go?
Thought that this would hurt Netanyahu.
Goddamn deep state. As soon as she starts talking about Netanyahu and what he wants to do as far as getting out of his criminalities and his trials and, kind of rigging the elections there, it's funny how it decides to just go down for a split second as she's mentioning that. I just want to make a note of that. Just, make a mental note of when it went down and what was being talked about every time that, these gremlins decide to sneak up on us.
Whose chance of re-election. And I've been talking to Israeli political experts. One of them, Ayala Panievsky, friend of the podcast, has put it like this. She says, Netanyahu is always thinking about two things: his trial and the elections. Currently, this exchange of missiles just today has already postponed the trial today. We haven't even talked about the trial that he's facing, this week, but it's already managed to push that not only out the headlines, but, off the...
So again, even if there's no military strategic value, right? Even if there's no military benefit, even if they didn't strike what they said that they were going to strike, just the launches themselves, just the action is enough for Benjamin Netanyahu to have, again, postponed any accountability that he's going to face inside of his own country. Once again, right? So again, you can see not only why he'd have the ability to do this, but obviously have the incentive to keep this thing going as well, whether it's international criminal warrants, whether it's, again, his corruption trials inside of Israel. The writing is on the wall as far as that is concerned as well. But I thought it was very well done as far as this is concerned. And like I said, right hand up, I don't know Emily and I don't know John or their politics or anything like that. I just happened to be shown this, stumbled upon this. And like I said, he kind of put it the way that I think we're all thinking. The biggest military blunder in terms of Operation Epstein Fury, none of the goals being achieved, the impotence of Donald Trump as far as curtailing Benjamin Netanyahu and his actions, and obviously recognizing the red line in peace being done, as Benjamin Netanyahu still involved and engaged in all of the shit that are obvious red lines to the Iranians. So again, you can see Donald Trump, by some reporting, suggesting that he's very frustrated with Netanyahu and his actions, and then in other reporting suggesting that, you know, that's kind of for the cameras and that he's basically behind the scenes giving him tacit permission to enact these bombings inside of Iran once again. But let's jump into this next one, if I may. This is LBC's James O'Brien, friend of the show, I'd like to say, but somebody that we look at quite frequently as far as his clips, again, going outside of the United States to get a different perspective, to get some different thoughts. And typically, you know, more times than not, they line up with what we're feeling, with what you're feeling in the chat, and the obvious realities of what's going on, and obviously opposes the propaganda that they try to espouse in the White House. So this is absolute meltdown. James O'Brien reacts to Trump's NBC interview walkout with Kristen Welker. So I just thought I'd get his reactions, his thoughts on this whole thing, and obviously Donald Trump being a petulant little fucking child and can't even handle the most minute of pushback, the most obvious of fact claims. All right, couldn't handle that much, so he had to storm out of this interview. And again, this is James O'Brien from LBC in his reaction to that. So hit that like button. My name's Brian. This is the Blunt Politics Podcast, and I do appreciate you for taking a little bit of time out of your day to join it with us. You know what I mean? So hit that like, subscribe to the channel, make it worth it. We're on our way to 25K. And again, like I said, this is James O'Brien reacting to Trump's little meltdown that he had with Kristen Welker.
Elections are crooked. And you're crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked, and so is ABC, and
just play
CBS and CNN.
But Mr. President,
you're one-sided crooked networks. Right? Let's call it quits because I've had enough. Thank you, darling. Have a good time.
Mr. President, let's please. I traveled all the way to Wisconsin.
I've sat in the rain with you.
I know.
I've
I
sat in the
traveled
rain
all the
with
way
you
to
for an hour,
Wisconsin.
on and off in the rain, and I've given you enough time. You ought to straighten out your press because you know what?
Mr.
A
President,
country can never be.
I just want to make it clear that he's not in the rain. He's in a very dry building. It's just raining outside of that building. So to make it seem like he's suffered and he's sitting there like under an umbrella and pouring rain, giving this interview where he doesn't, like, shut the fuck up. You're in a nice dry barn, right? Might smell a little funky, but that's probably more from your soiled diaper than it is from the fucking farm animals, right? If I can take a guess at it. But again, he's making it seem like, oh, he suffered and look at all the rain. No, shut up. You're warm. You're dry. You're in a seat. Shut up. You got a microphone. Answer the goddamn questions.
traveled
with a dishonest
listen,
press.
we
Come on,
traveled
let's go.
all the way to Wisconsin for this interview.
That clip should sort of echo through your memory banks, shouldn't it? The clip of Donald Trump just sort of storming out of an interview with Kristen Welker because she had the audacity to ask him for some tiny amounts or just the slightest scintilla of evidence regarding his claims about election rigging, his completely false claims, his lies, his blatant lies. I mean, Fox News ended up on the hook for hundreds of millions of dollars for repeating some of the lies with regards to voting machines. It's extraordinary how the world turns. But by sheer sort of...
Well, this whole thing is back, James. This whole thing. And I know you're not inside the United States hearing it firsthand and on the streets, but I mean, this whole California election has stirred it right back up, right? Whether it's Donald Trump again and his willingness to time and time again, now that he's president, now that he's got the DOJ, now that he's got the Pentagon and the FBI and the Supreme Court and the House and the Senate, he feels comfortable enough to sit in front of these interviews or with these interviewers and time again lie about the 2020 election, lie about the 2024 election like it's fact. He tries to rewrite history and he thinks he's in the position to do so. So now that's kind of stirred up again a lot of these idiots and morons talking about, you know, ballot harvesting and rigged elections with zero evidence, nothing to prove it, nothing to fucking suggest even remotely that they have any evidence to prove what they're saying. But it's again stirred up, something that's kicked back up as far as the dust on that. And we'll talk about that just after this clip. No, that might be in a couple clips. My apologies. But like I said, we got Tim Pool trying to get you to believe that the entire Californian election process is rigged. There's a clip here from GMA because they're mad now that Spencer Pratt has been leapfrogged as far as the mayoral race is concerned in LA. But like I said, before I get ahead of myself, let's dive into this clip here a little bit more from James O'Brien.
Of depravity, Donald Trump can rewrite history in his own head. And what you heard in that clip was an example of what happens when reality manages to break through. And the answer is meltdown, absolute meltdown. I think that's helpful when we turn our attention to the Middle East, because you cannot leave Donald Trump out of the conversation, obviously. But the absence of reference to or recognition of reality, it's an extraordinary psychological process, isn't it, by which you can somehow persuade yourself that black is white, that up is down, that north is south. You can persuade.
What we were just saying, what were we just pointing out as far as Trump at the Knicks game? Right? The booing, the clear booing being heard. We're showing that clearly to you guys as boos, and the right wing, the right side, the maggots on Twitter and everywhere else on Truth Social, using those same clips and trying to change reality, right? Trying to rewrite history and tell you that it was like this overwhelming praise, this huge warm reception that Donald Trump got. And it's like, he's speaking about this here. You have to turn yourself into believing that black is white, up is down is up, right is left. Like, you have to put yourself into that cult-like mentality in order to, again, degrade yourself enough to post this shit on social media or to say it on your podcast in front of an audience with like no shame whatsoever, right? So that's clearly what he's referencing here, and he's spot on again.
Yourself of almost anything, but the persuasion is so fragile that when someone pulls a thread calmly and politely, as that NBC journalist just did, the whole thing comes down in an avalanche of fury and retribution and shame. So that was the act of a man feeling shame briefly and blaming everybody around him for the shame. So I'm fascinated by the confection of it all, by the assembly, the construction, the erection of absolute nonsense, absolute lies. But his own relationship with his own lies is what came to light in that clip. And the fact that it is so fragile, his grasp upon the lies, his dedication, his necessity, his need for the lies is so complete, but his grasp upon them is so fragile. He knows that the most cursory scrutiny can make the whole thing come tumbling down. And you saw it come tumbling down. So now he turns his attention this morning to the ceasefire. What day is it, Keith? Monday. So Monday, well, I used to joke about a month ago. I started joking that it's Monday, so it's a ceasefire. It's Tuesday, so it's a threat of what's going to happen if there isn't a ceasefire. It's Wednesday, so it's a declaration of glorious victory and the complete obliteration of Iran's military capabilities. It's Friday, so I missed out Thursday. It's Thursday, and Iran has done something which has prompted Donald Trump to threaten the things that he's already obliterated with imminent obliteration. It's Friday, we're back to the ceasefire again. It's Saturday.
And he's not wrong. Like, that's how erratic the news coverage has been, or at least the reporting, because of something that Donald Trump posted, or again, Barack Ravid from Axios posted, or again, actions in the Strait of Hormuz, or actions in any one of the Gulf nations or in and around U.S. bases. Like, that's what takes place Monday. Then, you know, the deal's right around the corner. Tuesday, Iran screwed up, so we're going to annihilate them. Wednesday, we're back on as far as the deal being right around the corner. Thursday, again's coming back with something else happened. Israel decided to bomb Lebanon, so we're off again. Friday, we're on again. Saturday, it's off again. Sunday's bombing. Everybody's bombing. Monday, we're back to there's a deal right around the corner. And we've just kind of been through this progression of that same bullshit. Like I said, I think it's been reported 36, 37 times now by either Donald Trump or people in and around him about this deal being right around the corner. Like, that's insane, right? That's quite literally the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing over and over and over and again and expecting a different result. Right. So announcing a deal is right around the corner over and over and over again. And then people sitting there and buying that and eating that up and expecting a different result than they got the last 35 times. That's insanity. Okay. That's making you insane. So I know it's nobody here in this chat, not here listening to this show, but people do buy into this, and people, you can see the changes, how little they're making now in the markets. People do react to that shit. And it's crazy to me that people still buy into it in any way, shape or form,
Firing at each other. Well, it's Monday and they're firing at each other. And this is what the President of the United States of America was reduced to writing this morning. Both sides, Israel and Iran, are looking to do an immediate ceasefire, capital letters, exclamation mark. Final negotiations on, quote marks, peace, end quotes, are proceeding, subject to ignorance or stupidity getting in its way. I don't know if those are his new nicknames for J.D. Vance and Pete Hegseth, but if they are, they work for me. Subject to ignorance or stupidity getting in its way. The blockade, with an utterly pointless capital B, will remain in place. That's his blockade, not Iran's blockade, because Iran blockaded the Strait of Hormuz, and he responded by blockading the Strait of Hormuz. And in full force and effect until a, quotes, final deal, end quotes, also in, caps for the F and the D, is reached. Things should move quickly. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I mean, you can't stop reporting it, but it's increasingly difficult to analyze it. And then you come to recent events. Benjamin Netanyahu bombed Beirut. Israel launched strikes in the Beirut area for the first time since the truce was announced for Lebanon last week. So you can count how long that lasted in hours. In retaliation, Iran launches a salvo of missiles at Israeli targets, which puts the peace talks that are currently ongoing between the US and Iran at risk.
It never was. But again, ceasefire, everybody, ceasefire. But you can see how clearly confused and ridiculous this whole situation is to everybody, even the people that have been doing this for years and years, covering situations not exactly like this, but obviously very similar to the ones that we're going through right now. And it's just mind-boggling to them as well. The ridiculousness of the rhetoric, the ridiculousness of the claims, the ridiculousness of the goals they want to see happen. Meanwhile, none of those goals are happening. But obviously, they're mad about the deal that Obama had. Meanwhile, we don't have a deal to replace that or anything even coming close. And then everything that we've been talking about as far as a deal that could be signed is going to be well worse than the JCPOA was. We're going to be handing over much more money, exponentially more money than was handed over during the JCPOA. All of those things. And it's it's tough to put your finger on, like I said, not only what happened, but why it happened. And then obviously where we're going to go after this, you know what I mean? But continuously seeing the different reports coming out of the Middle East. Here's another one. This is Malcolm Nance, just kind of giving us a little bit of insight into, I believe he's speaking on the relationship between Donald Trump, Benjamin Netanyahu, and obviously the recent strikes and how that's affected the talks or lack thereof that were going on. So like I said, this is Asha Castleberry Hernandez and Malcolm Nance on Iran, Ukraine, and the future of American strategy. We won't get that deep into it because it's about an hour and 12-minute conversation that they had. But this clip that I have here is Malcolm Nance, I believe, speaking about, if I have the right section pulled up, about Trump, Netanyahu, and again, how that's affected the peace talk. So what do you say we dive into this? Hit that like button. I appreciate you guys. My name is Brian. This is the Blunt Politics Podcast. And if you hit that subscribe button, it would go and do a great deal to help this show. So I appreciate you guys. Let's dive into it.
The operation in Yemen, where it was just more about, driven with the Emiratis and the Saudis, right? And what you're actually telling me, what the Emiratis have done in terms of air power is pretty impressive compared to their record in Saudi Arabia.
I'm going to go back to 6:30 if I have it correct. Yeah, 6:30 is where I wanted to pick that up. My apologies. Here we go.
First off, Donald's having a bad 24 hours, well, 48 hours. Speaking of Iran, because twice in the last 48 hours, Benjamin Netanyahu has literally told him to go to hell. But Netanyahu doesn't do that with words. What he does it through action. I mean, Trump said on Thursday that Israel should stop its operations in Lebanon because Donald Trump wants it, and he's ruining things for him. And what was the quote? I believe it was in either Axios or one of the other papers, where he said, "Are you out of your effing mind? Or have you lost your effing mind? I'm in final negotiations with the Iranians, And in essence, you're going to stop everything that you're doing. And Netanyahu was publicly challenged with that when Trump went out and confirmed it in an Oval Office interview, that's exactly what he said. That wasn't news media making that up. That wasn't bull. It was the president of the United States telling the president of Israel, you will stop whatever it is you're doing because I am telling you to. 3, 2, 1. The Israelis.
Well, interesting because last week there was some remarks that came out that said Trump said to him, no one likes you no more. I've done all this for you.
Yeah, I kept you out of jail.
Yeah, this was last week's reporting of this, I believe the same interaction that he was just speaking about, where reportedly Donald Trump said that he was going to keep, or he did keep, Netanyahu out of prison. And I think Malcolm now speculates as to what information Donald Trump might have that the rest of us are not privy to, as far as, you know, Netanyahu's criminality, the evidence against him type of thing. So I think that's what he speculates here on that, as far as, again, the quotations that were reported about Trump keeping Netanyahu out of prison.
I kept you out of prison. This was the same conversation that was being had. And it was first off, that tells me a lot. I mean, as an intelligence collector, you know, I work principally for the National Security Agency as its military, collections branch. So when I hear it straight out of the headphones, I know that that's not a lie.
Right.
That was when I first heard that report, I go, that's raw. That is raw intelligence. But it tells
frustration from President Trump. Is it the gas prices? Is it because this war is not over and he wants to move over to Cuba? What do you think?
Yeah. And I'm glad you asked me that, because what it shows clearly is that Donald John Trump is desperate. If I were copying that, right? If this was the president of Burundi, I give Burundi a lot of grief, or Burkina Faso, or some other country, and I was on a monitoring collection mission, and I heard that, I would go, operator comment, double underline, desperate for the end of the war. Trump's statement where he goes to Netanyahu and essentially says, are you crazy? Why are you attacking Lebanon? Iran has tied this to the deal. I need to get this deal done. You need to stop attacking. I kept you out of prison, which tells me there's intelligence there that we don't know about. He understands the politics of what was going on in Israel, but don't forget, the way that we get intelligence on other leaders is we steal it.
Yeah.
Or we monitor it without you knowing. So Trump knows something about Netanyahu's case, and he used it as an implicit threat in a phone call between the president of the United States and the president of Israel. And by doing that, he underlined how absolutely desperate he is to end this war. And Netanyahu, by the way, was one of the demons that sat on his shoulder and was sticking him going attack Iran. But the other 500 are the Fortune 500 who are about to go through economic collapse if the United States does not get the Strait of Hormuz open.
Well, that's really interesting.
So again, the speculation on, you know, what exactly Trump knows about Netanyahu's criminality, evidence about his case, the reporting obviously that he said he kept him out of prison, and how mad he is about the ongoing attacks. But again, pair that up again, like I said, take it with a grain of salt, and the things that we hear. But you know, the new reporting coming out suggesting that Donald Trump wasn't as firm, let's just say, with Netanyahu, and may just kind of want to portray that in front of cameras, or his team is trying to portray that, but when in reality he may have given him kind of not explicit permission but tacit permission to go along or go ahead with these strikes inside of Iran. But again, the speculation as to what Donald Trump knows, I think that, you know, is kind of a pretty relevant question, again, considering what was reported, what was said in that phone call. But again, pair that with the continued actions of Netanyahu even after that phone call, and it doesn't seem like Donald Trump has any leverage to play. Doesn't seem like he has any ability to curtail what Netanyahu does. To a large extent, right? He's time and time again kind of been that the sticking point, the fucking thorn in the side of negotiations, whatever negotiations were in fact in place, weren't taking place because of the ongoing attacks by Israel into Lebanon against the Iranian proxies as well. But going on here with this next topic of the the willingness to again call elections rigged. Donald Trump has again been bringing up the 2020 election, the 2024 election, in basically every fucking interview he could possibly get it out in. But I just wanted to go through just a couple pieces of the news coming from the the California elections. One is the fact that Spencer Pratt has been kind of relegated to third place, which is given, the right reason or kind of this excuse, I will say, to again, to claim rigged elections and say that there's funny business going on. Again, not recognizing the amount of Californians that have to vote, not recognizing the amount of Californians that vote by mail, and how long it takes to, again, verify signatures and go through the process that the Republicans, I'm sure, would want to be seen, the process that they want to go through to make sure that there's no fraud, there's no voter fraud, but they're consistently now pointing out that long process of counting a shitload of votes as a reason why there is fraud and why there is, kind of a rigged election happening. So this is a quick GMA, just detailing some of the news there. And then we have this one from Tim Pool, who apparently says he has evidence, right? He says Democrat cheating in California exposed, and exposed is in capital letters. So he must have the goods. He must have the evidence, not to mention he's using a Daily Beast article, which I'm sure would be tops on the list of Tim Pool's fake news sites. But don't worry, if he's got something to say, if he's got something where, he's trying to make a point, he has no problem using ABC, NBC, CNBC, Daily Beast, you name it. He'll use those, but also say that it's a shit site, it's fake news, it's lefty hack media. Don't believe anything they say. But there's that. And then there's even a statement here, dangerous statement, I might add, from Mike Johnson, kind of giving credit to or giving credence to the ongoing ridiculous calls of, a rigged election in California. This is, again, the Speaker of the House, somebody in line for the presidency, now going on and saying that he's questioned about what evidence he has, and then says that it's so diabolical that it's not able to be proven, right? Which is an incredibly dangerous statement from the Speaker of the House. But let's dive into this quick one right here from GMA, just kind of detailing some of the election changes, the changes in the election results since more ballots have been counted. So appreciate you guys.
General election now set. Mayor Karen Bass will face off against progressive challenger Nydia Rahman after reality star Spencer Pratt fell into third place. Trevor Ault is on the scene in LA. Good morning, Trevor.
Good morning, George. On election night, Spencer Pratt was in second place with a 40,000 vote lead. He has now dropped below Councilmember Nydia Rahman by more than 20,000 votes, and the race has been called. So she will go head-to-head with current Mayor Karen Bass in a November runoff. Spencer Pratt had said if Mayor Bass or Rahman won in this race, he was going to give up on living in L.A.
Bye-bye, Spencer. Sorry. Don't let the fucking door hit you with a good Lord split you, buddy. You need help getting that airstream down off the hills? Huh? I'm sure we could get some neighbors out there kind of directing traffic so you can get that big, beautiful airstream that you said you live in off from those hills that you once, you once inhabited. But, if you're going to move out, if you lost, you're going to move out, and you got to be a man of your word and get the fuck out. I'm sure LA will be a better place for that. But like he says, they're all kind of complaining about the mail-in voting that has been counted and how they're like astonished that, again, a very blue state with a lot of people that vote by mail would actually vote for the left, the blue, or the progressive candidate, and how they would do a little better in the mail-in voting systems. Like, they still can't get that through their head, how a lot of that late counting, the late vote that is counted after the in-person voting, which typically historically has swayed to the conservatives, to the Republican side. And again, the late vote, the mail-in voting, people utilizing that heavily favors the Democrat typically. Again, not in all instances, but it is something that we've seen a lot in the presidential elections, as far as that, kind of that red wave that comes in. Then obviously the longer, in good elections, the longer that the election goes on, the more Democratic the more Democratic votes come in for their candidate. So, all right, let me just throw this, Roland.
Campaign was fully focused on critiquing the mayor, and it did generate a lot of traction online, but not enough traction with voters in the city of Los Angeles, and he'll come up just short of facing the mayor head-to-head. Now, we know there's been a lot of questions on why it's taking California so long to count the votes. Well, 80% of voters here vote by mail, and ballots postmarked by Election Day can arrive as late as today and still be counted. Plus, election workers are cross-checking the signatures on all of those mail-in ballots. It is not...
It's almost like per the rules rules, the laws and the regulations for the elections in California, everything's going to plan. It's almost like, per the date that they're allowed to get their election, they're voting in by, their ballots in by, like they're still being counted. They still are legally able to do this. And you can see clearly people going through the process of checking signatures and verifying whatever they need to verify, much like the Republicans would want to see, right? But again, they're using this as their justification to say that there's some like funny business going on, the length of time that it's taken, the amount of votes that have to be counted. Obviously, like they just said, about 80% of the people utilizing, I think was the number he said, 80% utilizing mail-in voting. So, I mean, this is the process. This is the way that they do it.
Very fast process, but it is meant to prevent voter fraud. And as this count continues, the primary for governor is also still too close to call. But former Biden Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra and former Fox News host Steve Hilton have the inside track to make the runoff.
Right,
Rebecca?
so there's the reporting there on what's taking place, why it's taken so long, obviously the processes that California goes through, the reasons, the percentages of not only the amount of people that they have population-wise, but also the amount percentage-wise of people that utilize the mail-in voting systems. So again, if you look into it, you look at the laws and you say, seems like everything's kind of copacetic. There's no information, there's no evidence, there's no reporting to suggest any funny business is going on whatsoever. Well, apparently Tim Pool has some evidence that nobody else has, because like he says here, Democrat cheating in California exposed, capitalized. So it's got to be something good. This is how they stole the election. So he's telling everybody this is how they did it. He's going to tell you right now how they did it. So let's see how deep into this video it goes before Tim Pool actually comes out with any information whatsoever. It's a 23-minute and 21-second video, and I'm going to guess that it's going to go 23 minutes and 21 seconds before he gets any information out there whatsoever. So what do you say? We dive into Tim Pool real quick. Damn, I got to find another way to word that. Definitely got to find another way. Let's dive into this clip from Tim Pool and see what shit we can call out from him. All right. I appreciate you guys. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Again, Tim Pool giving us all the evidence we need to see here to say for sure that the California election system is rigged. And Tim Pool is going to tell us why. Take it away, Tim.
As the dust settles in California, Spencer Pratt is knocked out of the race. NBC now joining Decision Desk in confirming Karen Bass and Nithya Raman will be advancing to the general, and the sole Republican has been iced out after a wave of mail-in votes came in specifically for Nithya Raman. Now, there's been a lot of talk about Spencer Pratt not receiving votes in these ballot dumps, and I see these journalists, they say, that's not true. Spencer Pratt has received votes in every single ballot dump. This is just not correct. No. By all means, some people are getting some things wrong. There was a ballot drop where Spencer Pratt got no votes, but for the most part, he did get votes. The issue is the proportion of the votes. Now, I've long maintained that this is the Democrat ballot harvesting strategy, electioneering strategy. It should be illegal federally. I don't care if it's a state election or otherwise, but
so he's saying that all mail-in voting should be illegal, right? The fact that California utilizes so heavily, mail-in voting, is he saying that should be illegal because most of the people that utilize mail-in voting might be on the left side of things? And again, I'm not sure what the actual breakdown is as far as percentage-wise, but, like I said, historically, it's the people that utilize these other systems instead of going in and doing the in-person on-the-day voting tend to lean left. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. Happy to correct myself, but I don't know what he's utilizing here. Again, we're now about a minute in. He's still got this Daily Beast article on the screen. Says Vance goes full tinfoil hat over MAGA reality star's defeat. Again, showing us that he said shit without any evidence whatsoever to support his claims, much like Mike Johnson, as we'll see in this next clip. But I don't know. Any evidence whatsoever that you can give us, Tim? Anything?
Exactly how they win. And ladies and gentlemen, we actually have the breakdown, the evidence, the plan, the play, exactly how they do it and why they say it is legal. Well, you can't codify cheating and then say you're not cheating. I'm going to make it real simple for y'all.
Please do. Please do. And if you could make it quick, that would be fantastic because we don't have a ton of time to waste while you sit there with your fucking dumbass beanie.
I got the breakdown from the DSA.
Break it down. Give it to me.
Lefties, as they talk about exactly how you can manipulate someone to trick a person who would otherwise not vote into voting for their fringe candidate, and you get to bring that.
You can manipulate somebody that wasn't going to vote into voting, not only into voting, but voting for the candidate of your choice. What's going on here?
that ballot in for them. The worst thing is a lot of these people, they do it for free because they're psychotic ideologues. But here's the best part. Ballot harvesters can be paid. So let me just break it down. I won't bury the lead. We got a lot of news to go through.
Yeah. Break it down. Break it down, Tim. Please.
10 a.m. segment. Let me just stress, my friends.
No, break it down. Don't stress. I don't want you to stress. Too much stress. That's why you're bald in the first place. Just less stress, more news, more facts, more speak of the evidence that you say you have, please.
These organizations can pay so
Yep.
long as not per ballot. This means that a super PAC, a PAC, a politician's campaign can go to a person and say, I'll give you $100 if you collect X amount of ballots. No. Not per ballot. I'm not going to give you $5 per ballot. I'm going to give you $100 for the day.
Okay, Tim, do you have anything that you're going to show backing this up? Because it seems to me you have a Daily Beast article on the screen for the 5, 6. Okay, nope, it changes right here. What's he showing here? Let's see what he's showing here.
He sets up all these shows, live Discord
Oh, no, it's a
show.
commercial. Okay, so we're now 5 minutes and 36 into this. He hasn't shown any piece of evidence whatsoever to suggest anything, and now he's gone into a commercial. Okay, so after this commercial, he goes back into what? The Daily Beast article.
There's a truth, and then the media lies to stupid people to trick them.
Okay.
You're going to love this because
where's the
I'm gonna
evidence,
show
Tim?
you how the propaganda machine works,
Hit me.
and I'm going to break down how they're
Hit
cheating
me.
you. So let's see, Mr. Ewan Palmer.
Yep.
Vice President J.D. Vance has suggested that it's pretty shady that reality TV star Spencer Pratt did not advance in the LA primary. In an interview with Jesse Waters, Vance weighed in on the MAGA outrage after the Republican candidate was pushed to third place by Democrat Nithya Raman as more mail-in votes were counted. Fundamentally, the problem here with this whole thing is how is it that you had, Karen Bass was in first place, Spencer Pratt was in second, and then this other woman in third place.
Yep.
I want to stress this, by the way.
Whoa. Read that next line. Read that next line. It goes on to say that you would expect these mail-in ballots to kind of meet that same basic pattern. Now, why? What information are you basing that off of, right? Where, again, it's not possible where, a lot of these mail-in votes, wherever they came in, however they came in at some point in time, maybe leaning heavily towards Nithya Raman or Karen Bass or not for Spencer Pratt. Like, that's just not something that you can compute. Understand, like, we've gone through this time and time again. They've been to the Supreme Court. They've been shut out of different courts all over the fucking country with this bullshit, the same bullshit that they're trying to pull now, right? Us all fucking ballot harvesting and what was the video that the movie that the guy made? 2,000 Mules. Remember that bullshit, right? So I guarantee they're going to have what, a 3,000 Mules? Is that the sequel? Is that the prequel? I don't know what they're going to do, but you can assure that they're going to try at least some of that shit. But they can't get it through their skulls that, again, the mail-in votes, the ones that come in late, and again, the ones that tend to favor Democrats, lefties, and they can't imagine that progressives now or people on the left at all would utilize that same way to vote. And then when they count those votes, it'll be heavily favored towards that candidate that they were voting for and not the moron that shouldn't have got the amount of votes that he got in the first place. You know what I mean? But this is, like I said, 20-minute video. He goes through this Daily Beast article, which I can assure you is not detailing any of the the evidence that Tim Pool is asking you. How to ballot delivery. So then he's just going to go through the rules, apparently, of California and how you can get your ballot in there. Voter guide, register to vote, how to vote in LA County, check ballot status, ballot delivery. Wow, look at the criminality in that. Holy shit. Tim hit the fucking nail on the head here. He struck gold with this website, which is dsala.org/elections, which is, I'm sure, just giving people the information on how to vote. That's quite clearly what it says, Tim. It says, how to ballot delivery, confirm strong candidate support. Have you received your ballot already? How will you vote? Ask at least 3 times. X candidate is in line with all of the values in our voter guide, and we need your help to change this city. I want to make sure that your ballot doesn't get lost in the mail or in the city bureaucracy. If we fill it out together right now, there's an official place to sign it over to me, and I can bring it to the city and directly either today or first thing tomorrow morning. Oh, so again, people that need to utilize, that may not have a ride, that may not be able to get to the post office, that may be handicapped, that may be, challenged in some way, shape, or form. So again, just another way in which people can cast their vote, which is something that, you'd think you'd want people to be able to do in this country if they're of legal age, if they're legally able to vote, right? That's just, shouldn't we make it easier for people to cast their vote? apparently Tim Pool is pissed off that there's easy ways for people to cast their vote. And then again, people out there trying to make sure that you're voting for the best candidate that best supports, again, the society that we want to create. So again, that's a bad thing for Tim to see. He doesn't want people making sure that we, vote in the right candidates and actually see, the change that you're hoping to see by voting in the right candidates. He's pissed off that people are helping other people get in their ballots. But that's about the evidence that he shows. That's really about it. How to ballot delivery. He reads that page. That's, I guess, about it. All mail voting. 8 states, California, Colorado, Hawaii, Nevada, Oregon, Utah, Vermont, and Washington conduct what is commonly referred to as an all-mail election or universal mail-in voting. So apparently he's against that as well. He doesn't want to see, again, the ease in which that people could vote or people utilizing mail-in voting. So apparently it's just mail-in voting that's the problem, and that the fact that, a lot of people get access to vote in these elections. That's the problem for Tim. But this is made even more dangerous by people like the Speaker of the House here, Mike Johnson. When he's questioned, he's making some, again, statement that he can't back up, statements that he has no proof of. And then I believe Raju Manu asked him what evidence there is to prove that California election is rigged. And you'll hear Mike Johnson's claim here. Well, it's so rigged, it's so diabolical what the Democrats are involved in that they're so good at it as well. That's another thing we gotta be sure to repeat. We're so goddamn good at this election rigging that it's impossible to prove it. Okay, that's how good we are. That's how like there's a ton of people involved, millions of people may possibly involved in all of these election riggings, but we're so good at it. We can keep our mouths shut. We can keep that quiet so good that nobody is ever able to prove a goddamn thing. But here he is again, like I said, Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, questioned by Manu Raju about the evidence he would have to show to suggest anything that he's saying about the California elections. And Mike Johnson gives another dangerous statement that gives everybody pretty much the ability to call out every election to this point, from here on out. You know what I mean? So if you can say, well, they're so good at cheating, there's so much cheating going on that it's impossible to prove. It's so diabolical that it's impossible to prove. They now have an excuse to say that about every election, local, state, federal, from here on out. They're given to them by Mike Johnson here.
I'm not saying it's rigged. I'm saying it stinks to high heaven, and everybody knows that.
I'm not saying it's rigged. I'm saying it stinks to high heaven. Now, what do you mean by stinks to high heaven? Things aren't above board. When you say things aren't above board, what else does that mean? That things were done illegally, right? So if things were done illegally, then you were saying that it was corrupt or that it was rigged. So again, you can claim to say whatever phrase you want to say, but if you're questioning the elections as the Speaker of the House, that's a fucking problem that you need to show evidence of before, again, you go in front of cameras and state these things.
Let's remove the appearance of impropriety. Let's have what a concept. Let's have votes on an election the day of the election. What many states are able to do. I think California is playing around with this.
But what evidence is there to prove that there was rigged?
Some of these efforts are so diabolical and so far upstream it is impossible to prove. But I think everybody knows this.
What the fuck does that mean? Honest to God, what the fuck does that mean? What does it mean that it is so diabolical, it is so far upstream that it's impossible to prove? What, please, somebody, maggots, anybody in the chat that's not a liberal, Democrat, progressive, whatever you call yourself, if you're on the conservative side and you still support this bullshit, can you hop in the chat right now and just explain to me a little bit about what that means exactly? What could we possibly have been doing that is so diabolical, that is so far upstream that makes it impossible for you guys to prove any cheating? Any improprieties in the elections process whatsoever? I'm dying to know. I'm dying to know how we could be that good at it at this point in time that you guys admit that it's impossible to prove, but are still going to say this bullshit.
Instinctively, something is wrong here. And that's a concern. We need people to believe in the integrity of our election system.
And they would, again, if you didn't continue to go out there in front of cameras questioning it without evidence whatsoever as the Speaker of the House. A lot of people would have a lot more, trust and respect for our election integrity and the election and processes that each state has that they're responsible for. I will, continue to reiterate the states responsible for their election processes. So however California does it, Mike can fucking stick it up his ass. Because again, as long as you have no evidence, as long as there's nothing coming out to prove any of this rigged election bullshit or fraud in any way, shape, or form that would change the scope of the election, you can fucking sit down on your thumb and rotate, Mike, okay? I know you'd enjoy that. It'd probably set off the alarm in your son's cell phone, but, you know, whatever. That's the issues that you face in your life, I guess. Not my problem. Not my problem. All right, but you know, you can see how dangerous that is and how it's given, again, permission to all of these dickheads to question elections going on in the future. Anything that they don't like, any election that they lose, whether it's a court decision, whether that's a local election, whether that's a fucking student council election, whatever it may be, you know, they're going to sit there and say that it was rigged. It was, you know, there was improprieties and fraud, and look how long it took, while not recognizing, again, the population of California, how much they have and how many people utilize the mail-in votes, and how their process is in going through those mail-in votes and making sure that there was no fraud, right? So they're doing it. They're doing it the way that their election processes and laws say that they're going to do it. But again, it's just completely unnecessary and definitely dangerous for the Speaker of the House to get out there and try to espouse all of these different ridiculous claims with zero evidence to back any of it up whatsoever. But all right, I digress. Let's dive into this last section of today. I appreciate you guys for joining me. Once again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come here, whether it's just to hang around with the chat or to get some insights, opinions, and kind of hopefully the facts of the matter from what's going on in today's society, going on in today's world. But let's dive into this story, because this is going into the Ukraine theater now. We're talking about a Russian major general reportedly killed in a car bomb explosion near Moscow. So let me see if we can throw this on the screen as well. That's not him. That's Mike Johnson. But this is it from Canal. Just a quick reporting of this, and some video coming out as well from the apparent car bomb that took out this major general, again, in and around Moscow. So we'll see what comes from this. But here's some of the angles and some of the information coming from that as well.
A car exploded in the city of Balashika, which borders the Russian capital Moscow, in the early morning of June 9th, killing the driver at the scene. According to the Telegram channel 2 Majors, the man killed in the explosion has been identified as a Russian major general. The channel, however, did not reveal his name. Earlier, witnesses and Russia's investigative committee confirmed that a 62-year-old man died after an explosive device detonated inside a vehicle in the Aviatorov district of Balashika. The explosion.
So they actually cut that first this first clip off of the car exploding, the car originally crashing after it took off. There's actually somebody that rushes in what looks to be like a fire extinguisher and does pull the guy out of the front seat. It looks to be that the guy's on fire, and it's reported here that he did apparently die on the scene, but they cut that short. You can see that in a couple of the angles, but you know, you can see the BMW, I believe he was driving here, fully engulfed. But like I said, from the time that I came on, from the time that I pulled this clip up, I didn't see anybody that had taken credit for this yet. I just saw that it was just generally being reported as this Russian major general killed in a car bomb. And these were the pieces of footage, the clips coming out from that. If you guys have seen anything reported as of, since we came on, let me know. What is that? Who's this? Hold on. Who did I see? I saw somebody in there having a tough time of it. Anyway, I appreciate all the trolls in the chat. I appreciate the trolls. Make sure you hit that thumbs up or thumbs down. Even the thumbs down does a lot to help with the old algorithm. So if you hate what you're hearing, if you hate what you're seeing, make sure you hit that thumbs down button. But if you like what you're hearing and you like what you're seeing, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. But that was a little bit of that Russian major general and the clips coming from that. This is what I wanted to dive into, though, if I could. This is Fareed Zakaria. Again, haven't seen much of him diving into this matter, but he gives his, accounting here of how Ukraine is finally turning the tide against Russia, something that we've heard time and time again over the last few months from different analysts and different people speaking about this matter. So I just wanted to see, what he has to say about this real quick, and then we can dive on to this military show channel video, and then we got one from Preston Stewart just kind of detailing again the effectiveness of the Russian drones and how they're doing pretty well as far as their Russian manhunt is concerned. So again, let's see if we can just dive into this real quick. I'm curious what he's saying about this, the turning of the momentum on the side of Ukraine going into these summer offensive months here.
Here's my take. Donald Trump faces plunging public approval at home and a messy war he initiated abroad. But he has an opportunity to change that narrative, not in the Middle East, but more than 1,000 miles away in Europe, where a bloody war rages on between Russia and Ukraine. In recent months, the tide has turned in that conflict in ways that make peace finally possible. Ukraine is now in the 5th year of a war against an adversary with roughly 12 times its economy and more than 4 times its population. Its mere survival has been one of the great military and national achievements of the modern era. But now, Kyiv is no longer simply surviving. It is changing the arithmetic of the war. For years, Russia's brutal advantage was not that it fought well. It was that it could fight badly and endure the cost. Putin's army used conscripts, convicts, ethnic minorities, poor men from remote regions, and anyone else the state could throw into the furnace. It lost staggering numbers of soldiers, but it could recruit more than it lost, often bringing in more than 30,000 men every month. That equation has begun to break. Russia is taking losses at a rate that appears to exceed its ability to replace trained troops. Its advances, bought at enormous cost, have slowed to a crawl.
And again, trained troops is doing a lot of heavy lifting, Fareed, I'll say, as far as that is concerned, because even if the Russians do have the time, the ability, and the manpower to train or equip their troops, we've seen very lackluster attempts, very lackluster performances as far as that's concerned on the front lines, whether that due to maltreatment from the commanders, lack of equipment when they actually get to the front, or again, lack of care for the mission at hand, and an unwillingness to become part of the meat grinder, the people that are fertilizing those sunflowers in Ukraine as well.
Forces that once aspired to take all of Donbass now moving in meters, not miles. In May, battlefield trackers suggest Russia barely gained territory at all and may even have lost some ground. Russia's size, once its great advantage, has become a liability. More logistics to protect, more targets to defend, more territory vulnerable to attack. Ukraine, meanwhile, has substituted speed, intelligence, and ingenuity for mass. It has built a formidable drone industry, much of it homegrown. It plans to produce 7 million drones this year. By comparison, the United States...
So again, this seems like a general recounting of what we've talked about on this show over the last several months. Again, whether it is the flip in the amount of Russian soldiers that the Ukrainians are able to take out compared to the amount of Russian soldiers or recruits that the Russians are able to throw back into the fight. Obviously, the uptick in the percentage of Russians taken out by the Ukrainian drones, the ongoing efficacy of the Russian drone campaign, the medium and long range missile campaign that they've been involved in, striking different oil refineries, different ports that they ship oil out from, or just again the Mariupol to Melitopol highway going into Crimea, the Kerch Bridge and around there. All of these things we've talked about in the last several months and beyond that are, again, pointing in the direction of the momentum behind the Ukrainians, and definitely some difficult times ahead for the Russian military. But that 30,000 number mark has a place as well. So remember that, because this is from the military show, and this says Ukraine just did something devastating to 100,000 Russian troops. So let's see if we can just play a couple minutes of this. I know the military show is usually, kind of, I don't want to say hyperbolic, but tends to exaggerate things. So we might have to rein this in, but I'll also show that the number that they give is borne out in fact, because Preston Stewart has a very similar video talking about how even for Russia, this is unsustainable, and that how Robert Magyar, Robert Borovdy has been doing some pretty substantial damage against the Russians with his drone force, his drone team. So let's see if we can dive real quickly into this military show, and then we'll get into the Preston one, and I'll get you guys out out of here for the day. All right. Appreciate you guys. Slava Ukraini. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and thank you again, everybody that's been helping us with the NAFO 69 Sniffer Brigade and Help 99 campaign to get the 3rd Operational Battalion Artillery Platoon, their truck, going in the Lipsy direction. So again, let's dive into this real quick. Titled, Ukraine just did something devastating to 100,000 Russian troops.
Russia started the spring with grand plans. A massive offensive, the collapse of the Donbass. Ukraine would finally crumble under Russia's might. That was the messaging out of the Kremlin as spring kicked off. But like so much that comes out of the mouths of Putin's cronies, the messaging was, shall we say, a little off. Russia's spring offensive was a failure, and the past year has seen the rise of something terrifying for Putin. Ukraine did something devastating to 100,000 of Russia's troops. A brilliant new tactic is in play, and it's put Putin's army on its deathbed. Even Russians can see the end coming, but Putin's head is buried so deep in the sand that he doesn't know what the battlefield is telling him. Russia is losing. All of the momentum rests with Ukraine. And if there is any doubt about this clear fact, we only need to look at the real numbers that have emerged from Russia's spring campaign. A massive offensive that was supposed to set the stage for the fall of the Donbass by fall has instead served as a brutal reminder to Russia that Ukraine only seems to be getting stronger. And the numbers come from the charismatic and notorious leader of Ukraine's unmanned systems forces, Robert Brovdy. Today, June 4th, 2026, 358 days after the creation of the SBS Group, June 11th, 2025, the birds crossed the mark of 100,000 carcasses of enemy biomass with confirmed irretrievable and sanitary losses.
So let me just put that in a different way. They have video confirmation from probably multiple different angles, basically now that detail that confirm 100,000 of the enemy in biomass with confirmed, like they said, irretrievable and sanitary losses, as he put it. He's always kind of, he's definitely rubbing salt and dirt in the wounds of the Russians, as he typically does and definitely deserves to do. So we kind of like the way that he puts his his statements going towards the Russian. But, they're basically saying that they now have video confirmation of at least 100,000 different Russian forces that have been taken out through their drones, their unmanned drone systems forces.
In a Telegram post. Russian worms, as Brovdy calls them, have suffered a spring that will live in memory for years. And the number of soldiers that Ukraine has eliminated in just 1 year is especially humiliating when taken in the context of the size of the force that Putin thought he would need to take all of Ukraine. Way back in February 2022, when Russia launched the full-scale invasion, Putin dedicated 180,000 soldiers to the cause. These soldiers attacked on 4 axes: Kyiv, the Donbass, the southern region of Tavria.
Just think of that. Just think of that. From the reporting there from Robert Magyar, where he says they have 100,000 videos, drone footage, confirming 100,000 kills by their different unmanned drone systems. Compare that to the 180,000 of the troops that Putin had originally sent in. So 100,000 of them. And I know it's not a direct comparison. It's not the exact same troops. But again, just numerically speaking, 100,000 of those 180 have been killed. And that is confirmed. That is video evidence to confirm every single one of those, if not from one specific angle, but from probably multiple different drone angles, right? So that's a huge portion of that original force, or at least, like I said, numbers wise, percentage wise, of that original force that is dead. Not just removed from the battlefield, not just injured, not maimed, not had a leg blown off, not had an arm dead, gone. See you later, sayonara, not here, no more. 100,000 of the 180 original 1,000 that went in is just fucking mind blowing. And again, I know he's recruited thousands and thousands of more, and it's not the same, but you can get the comparison and what we're talking about of percentage wise. Just how many we're talking about? 100,000. I mean, he originally sent in 180, so that just shows you how many we're speaking about just right there.
And the Siversk-Slobozhanskaya region. The idea was simple: unleash a firestorm that would lead to Ukraine collapsing in 3 days. But Ukraine survived, and now Ukraine has eliminated enough Russian soldiers to account for more than half of the force that Putin originally thought would be enough to topple his enemy.
Crazy.
That's an embarrassment. A clear indictment of Putin's complete failure to live up to the image of the great military tactician that he had created for himself. But even more than any of that, what Ukraine pulled off in the spring of 2026 is a credit to the country's tactical brilliance, as it's taken a weapon that has defined the Ukraine war and turned it into the true game changer that Putin never saw coming. Things are starting to shift in Ukraine. But before we dig into
And
why,
again, you're probably thinking, Bri, this is the military show. You've played this channel before, and we've kind of had to reel it back in a little bit from some of their rhetoric and what they're, kind of calling for to happen. But again, this is Preston Stewart, somebody that we've played time and time again, who is, based in reality, talks about what he can prove and what he can prove only. And he's saying the same exact thing. He's saying even for Russia, this isn't sustainable, and he gives the same exact reporting about Robert Magyar there, and him basically saying, yep, 100,000 here. Check this out.
So Ukraine has now visually confirmed more than 100,000 Russian soldiers killed or wounded by their unmanned systems forces over the past year, which is
over
wild.
The past year, too. Again, we're not talking about the entirety of the war. I should have stipulated that. I should have made that more clear. We're not talking about over the 5 years. We're not talking about the entirety of, since they went into Crimea or since the little green men showed up. No, just in the last year, 100,000 confirmed dead on the Russian side that they could prove through pieces of footage that you're looking at on your screen right now.
But even crazier is that Ukraine is on track to triple that number over the next 12 months. And if that comes to fruition, it's hard to see Russia continuing for much longer. I mean, they do have a lot of manpower, but...
And again, I wouldn't even be able to guess as to how many different... since the beginning of the war, I know they said 100,000 the last year, but it's probably astronomical if they figure in, when this was first getting going and they were dropping grenades from, these really cheap FPV drones through sunroofs of Ladas and stuff like that. So if you add all those up, the video footage that proves all of that, I mean, it's probably, it is astronomical. 100,000 is astronomical. So again, add in the rest of the years of the war and how many have been taken out through, drone activity on the Ukrainian side is just mind-blowing. It really, really is. 100,000 of the 180,000 that originally went in, dead, gone, erased. Oh, my apologies. I don't know why I just did that. I definitely hit the wrong button. My apologies. Let me throw that back on the screen. I hit the stop share button. My apologies. All right, back up. Only take me a second. All right, here we go. My apologies. Back at it like a crack at it.
1,000+ losses a year is a tough pill to swallow for any country. That's where we are right now. Now, this lines up with a statement from Ukrainian Defense Minister Fedorov a couple days ago where he said, quote, Ukraine has gradually taken the initiative on the front line. The cost of advancing for the Russians is constantly increasing. If in October the enemy lost 67 soldiers per square kilometer of advance, in April it was already 179. Russia is suffering record losses. More than
and this is just a fraction of the footage you're seeing on the screen, and obviously you're not seeing the most gruesome parts of the video, but you can see clearly here how many different Russian soldiers have been surrounded by, found themselves in a position where the drone is just loitering, impossible to get away from, and then eventually had to succumb to the I don't know, let's just say the ability of the drone.
5,000 killed or seriously wounded soldiers per month. And we continue to increase the pace. That might
that guy
sound
was just sitting in the mud, right? I mean, trying to detail and depict what it's like for these
more
people.
Than 35,000 killed.
That guy's just sitting in looks like in a mosh, right? A bunch of wood that they've put together to try to keep out of the water.
Killed or seriously wounded soldiers per month. And
look at this guy. I mean, that doesn't look like fucking somewhere you'd want to be at all. Out in the middle of nowhere, sitting in a fucking mud puddle. Looks like this was during the cold season as well, by the way he's dressed. Looks like he's got his at least some winter gear on and his big pants to try to keep himself warm. I don't know how warm you're going to stay if you sit in that fucking mud puddle, though, Chief.
Continue to increase the pace.
Well, that doesn't have to think about that anymore, apparently.
Might sound unrealistic or like a fantasy, but anybody who's been following this war or following this channel, we have the documented footage. Ukraine is releasing this day in and day out. Those numbers actually line up with reality. It's staggering that that's where we are in 2026, but it's reality. In fact, the Ukrainian Unmanned Systems Forces, and I'll have this video linked in the description below if you want to check it out separately, but we'll play that here, their roll-up, to give you an idea of the scale of what 100,000 killed or seriously wounded over the last 12 months actually looks like. Here's from the Unmanned Systems Forces.
So this is just a clip of the video released from the Unmanned Systems Forces. Again, just giving a snippet, a small fraction, a small percentage of the clips that they have, the footage, the confirmations that they have. They put this out. And I'm not sure if this is copyright music, so I might turn off the sound, but I'll let the video play. It really is amazing how you just have almost nowhere to hide from these things, and it's just getting, worse for anybody on the front lines as far as to try to get out of the range sight, thermal fucking scopes, whatever it may be now that they're utilizing as far as technology on these. It's just, again, is ample video here to kind of prove that it's not a place that you want to find yourselves out in the middle of nowhere as these drones are flying overhead trying to take you out personally.
Now, the Ukrainian defense minister continued with this, saying that they are launching a separate program called the Logistical Lockdown to scale up middle strike and systematically destroy Russian capabilities at the operational depth. He said, our task is to further increase the pressure on the Russians in their rear and deprive them of the ability to conduct active assault operations. He said, over the past few months, we have quadrupled the destruction of enemy logistics, warehouses, equipment, command posts, and supply routes at the operational depth.
Again, make it more difficult to resupply the front. Obviously, it's going to have an effect on the morale and obviously the, the efficacy of the troops there. We've seen time and time again, and we've heard time and time again about them trying to make that kill zone from the front stretching into the Russian, behind the Russian enemy lines there. They want to try to broaden that to make it so that the Russians are less comfortable, less likely to be able to set up shop within this, what is it? They're trying to 10, 15, 20 kilometer stretch that, again, these people have thought to be, a safe territory and then, quickly, swiftly seen a Ukrainian drone fly right up their keister. So the more difficult it can make the Russians, the more difficult it is for the Russians to get the resupply to the front, obviously taking out the resupply routes. And if they make them reroute, take a longer time, get less trucks through, it's going to have an impact on not only their troops, but obviously the ability that the Ukrainians have in fighting them as well. But right on time today. Perfect timing as we finish today. I appreciate you guys for sticking with me. It's about 85 degrees here, so I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day wherever you're watching from. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 25K. Thank you guys to everybody that supports our our campaigns and everything that we're passionate about on this channel. And it's all thanks to the mods and this fantastic chat that I get to do this. And I am very, very appreciative. What do you say? We thank people on the Venmo app there, anybody that sent in a buck or two up there in the corner trying to help out this channel, this independent channel that could. I really do appreciate it today. What do you say? Bry Guy, much appreciated. Thank you, Bry H. He says, Slava Ukraine, good afternoon. Right back at you, Bry. Thank you so much for everything that you do for this channel. Everybody taking the time out to, again, send a buck or two into the Venmo. That's all we ask for. Anything above and beyond that is 100% up to you. If you think we're worthy of above $2, then fine. But other than that, a buck or two will suffice from people in the chat. Help us get the just that much further along, right? So thank you so much to Bry. Thank you so much to Nina, Allison. Thank you so much to Jeff in Geneva. Thank you so much to Bry Guy again, Nancy, Yakov. Thank you to Moms, Peter, Jim. Over the last few days, everybody nice enough to take a second out of their day, $1 out of their account, and send it over to the Venmo. So much appreciated to you guys over here on the YouTube side of things. What do you say, Marianne? How are you? Starting off in the right direction today. Very much appreciate you and your 6 months of loyalty here. Slava Ukraine, Heroyam Slava, right back at you, Mary. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Yakov, what's going on, my brother? Good to see you back from your camping excursion. Sorry, as I sweat my keister off here. Yakov, 17 months. Let's go, brother. Appreciate that. Lurking, sick, got a fever, and my body still hurts. See what camping does to you? See, you can't go camping in a rainforest, in rain, and just enjoy yourself anymore. You're going to come back and get the flu. You never know. You know what I mean? But no, we wish you a speedy recovery, Yakov. Sorry that you're going through that at this point in time, but I'm sure it was worth it for the memories with the fam, right? I'm sure you'll say that. But appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to Abby. So much for the 20. Goddamn, I should know this. Is this Swedish? Is this Swedish kroner? Let me know in the chat. Now I'm gonna stay on this until somebody answers this. Let me know, because I think somebody's told me this before. I might be right. I don't want to disrespect anybody and their currency. Abby, thank you so much for your contributions. I do believe it's kroner, if I'm not crazy. Let me know. I don't want to make I don't want to seem like I'm getting it wrong. Let me know in the chat. I'll see if I can pick it up out of my periphery. But a bad day camping is still better than a bad day food. Yeah, it's true. That's true. That's true, Dame. That's true. But let me know in the chat what the SEK is. I feel like I've heard it before and I should know. Yes. Dame says yes. Swedish krona. All right. Good. Good. Didn't want to be disrespectful. So thank you so much, Abby, for watching. Thank you so much for your kind contributions to the channel. Really, really means a lot. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you, chat, for keeping me up to speed on that one. I almost got that one wrong. Thank you so much, Greg. They were saying boo words. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. These idiots on the right trying to make it seem like they weren't booing, using the same clips that we're using to show you that they were booing. They weren't saying that. They were saying, I don't know, probably that. Probably that. I can't come up with anything because I'm not dumb like the people on the conservative side. I'm not quick enough to come up with the propaganda like that. But Greg, appreciate your $2 contribution, my friend. Thank you to Bicycle Mike, F Trump, F Cancer. I'm camping this week. There you go. Don't get sick. Don't get sick. Yakov, let him know. Tell him not to get sick. Tell him how not to get sick. Keep your feet dry, I guess. Maybe don't go out in a rainforest and expect no rain. I'm just saying. But no, Bicycle Mike, hope you have a great time, my friend. Really, really do. And I do absolutely second and confirm and corroborate both of those two first things, the F Trump and the F Cancer. I'm right there with you both. So thank you very much. Thank you, Rachel. Good to see you. Nithya isn't fringe or radical. She's center left. Well, you know what I mean? I mean, it's just the fact that they don't understand that like the left would get a boost in those late votes that come in as they typically do is just ridiculous. But yes, I appreciate you for the corrections and the just letting people know in the chat. Thank you so much, Rachel. Hope you have a great day. Yes, it was Dinesh D'Souza. That's who had the 2,000 mules. I couldn't think of his name. Will Dinesh D'Souza go to prison again for 3,000 mules? It's coming. You know it's coming, right? I mean, just the way that they're pushing this election shit in California. Again, the willingness and how many times Donald Trump recently has been talking about the 2020 election, the 2024 election. Like, you know it's coming. I don't know if it's 3,000 mules, 30,000 mules, 300,000 mules. I'm not sure. It's California we're talking about. So it's probably like, I don't know, 30 million mules at this point. But thank you, Rich. I appreciate you so much. And then Abby again. Oh, thank you so much, Abby. Appreciate that for the 20 again Swedish krona, and then again with the 50 Swedish krona. I have no idea what the conversion is on this, but thank you so much anyway. I very much appreciate that for all of your contributions, all of you, all of the generosity you've shown today. And it's good seeing you here in the chat. Thank you so much, Abby. Thank you to Ruben as well. Slava Ukraini. Thank you, Brian. Oh, thank you, Ruben. Heroyam Slava right back at you. And then thank you so much to Jennifer Appreciate you sneaking in at the end. Well, I appreciate you sneaking in at the end. Thank you so much. Every contribution helps. Every dollar helps, just like it does with our campaign with the Help 99, the NAFO 69 Sniffer Brigade. So again, share that out. The link should be going out in the chat. The mods are fantastic, and I know they're up to speed on that. So thank you so much to Jennifer. Thank you to Ruben. Thank you to Abby. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Bicycle Mike. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Yakov. And thank you, Mary Ann, for your kind contributions today. And just thank you, everybody who was kind enough to show up today and spend a little bit of time here with me. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Hit that like button on the way out if you didn't do it on the way in. Again, if you like what you're hearing, if you like what you're seeing, if you find yourself coming back time and time again, or at least sticking around for a considerable amount of time during the show, please subscribe to the channel. It means a lot, and it's 100% free. Doesn't cost you a single cent. And again, just lets you know, or lets the algorithm know that you enjoyed what you were watching to a point where you're looking to get, active in the community and affiliated with that channel. So appreciate it if you hit it on the way out. Subscribe to the channel, and then obviously if you could share it out on your social media platforms, that would be fantastic. Head over to bostonbrian.com. That gives you all of the access to all of my different social media accounts, whether that's Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, the whole 9 yards. And also that's where the merch site is as well, the Blunt Politics merch site. Make sure you're going over there, rep a hat. I think we got some fantastic hats on there as well. Obviously, some great resistance and opposition merch. Doesn't have anything to do, if you don't want it to have anything to do with the channel, we got some great designs over there that just lets people know what side of history you're on without, again, affiliating yourself with the YouTube channel. So we got it all covered over there, whether that's men's, that's women's, tank tops, sweatshirts, stickers, mugs, all of that stuff. Head over to bostonbrian.com. Check all that out. All goes to help this independent platform, really, guys. So thank you so much for your generosity, your contributions, and I will see you tomorrow for the doubleheader. Thank you again to all the Patreons that were there last night. Always good to see you guys. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow for the doubleheader. Tomorrow, Wednesday, 1 p.m. show here on the East Coast. That's 10 a.m. on the West Coast. And then we got tomorrow night as well, 8:30 p.m. podcast. That's 5:30 on the West Coast. So again, check wherever you live and check out those times. And we'll see you tomorrow for the doubleheader. Thank you to the mods. Thank you to the chat. And I'm out of here. I appreciate you guys. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, everybody. Peace out. I'll see you tomorrow.
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую. Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
Yesterday is a hard word for me. Oh, get those lights off! Off! Turn them off. They're too bright. Turn them off. Eating the dogs, the people that came in, they're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of. Oh, go fuck yourself.
Where you going?
Nowhere. I'm just dead. I got a bowl of chocolate pudding in my underpants.
Refer to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small. For the rest of my life, I have the curse that I have little hands. Little hands.
Hey, you got a little chubby going there.
My superpower is being honest. I will eat my neighbors.
They're eating the dogs.
Yes, of course, hence the name. Movement, it moves a certain distance, then it stops, you see. Revolution gets its name by always coming back around in your face. You tried to kill me, you son of a bitch. So welcome to the revolution.
Brian, you're drunk. You're drunk.
Where you going?
Nowhere.
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
Gettysburg, what an unbelievable battle that was. The Battle of Gettysburg, what an unbelievable. I mean, it was so much and so interesting and so vicious and hard. Army manned the air. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airport. Never fight uphill, me boys. Never fight uphill. You're a nation that just recently heard that Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat you, the undisputed champion of beautiful clean coal. To officially name the undisputed. Just when did this come out? Here's a thought: grow a sack, fill it with some balls. We're inviting Americans from all across the country to come. God bless the United States. Somebody said, is that a Trump statement or is that real? Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen. For minors, do we love minors? I love minors. It's a new form of vicious violation to our country. The kidney has a very special place in the heart. It's an incredible thing. The big, fat, sloppy